Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to the Roundtable Podcast live for today, February 19th, 2016. Hopefully this time with way less technical difficulties than last week. I am going to be hosting once again, and I am joined by my three friends, Northern Lion, Rockley Smile, and Michael A.L. Fox.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hi.
What's up, dudes?
Just hold on a second. I'm on hole 18.
All right, when you're ready.
Hole 18, 1 power
I'm ready when you
One
are.
power?
off the conveyor, and then 2 power, bounce it off the one corner post.
Why not
into the
one
hole.
power?
Well, I always went a little bit harder because I found that one power left me a little bit too suspect to the whims of
You
the...
go too hard, you're going to bounce yourself all the way back to the left, and then you're not going to have a 45-degree angle to
Nick.
get into the hole.
Nick,
He's
you,
right.
don't,
He's
you
right.
don't need to tell me the secrets of the forest. I promise you this.
All right, well,
I've got a track record that can speak for itself.
How many holes are in the game? Just the 18? Like,
36 holes in Golf
Okay.
with Friends.
is it an
That's
early
fair.
access game, or is it like...
yes.
It is
There, yeah.
Steam
Okay.
Early Access.
Gotcha.
The biggest bug right now is that it crashes. Although one time on the one hole where there's like one of the targets, and then you have to, on the right, you bounce it up, and there's 4 like holes. 3 of them are fake.
Traffic.
Three
Oh,
of them
yeah.
are fake.
I hit
hole
that-
14.
I hit that target, and then my ball just stayed there, and it was spasming it, and it wouldn't move. So that was the other glitch I found, but
Sorry to hear that. That sounds really traumatic, actually.
it was.
Is it kind of like... The only other golf game I played recently was like Vertiginous Golf, I think.
It's not really at all like Vertiginous Golf.
Okay. What, is it
in
more
most ways.
realistic, I guess?
No, it's 100
samey.
times simpler.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It doesn't have any weird like steampunk atmosphere. You can't like use the afterburners on your ball to adjust its position. You just like point where you want it to go and then how much power you want and then
Let
get
it go.
it going.
Do things and let it go. Did you do your 18th hole? Are you done?
I'm done. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we'll get right down the docket. As always,
I shot a 45.
That's good
it's only
job.
5 under.
Oh.
It's pretty bad actually. That's
That's
Yeah.
pretty bad.
I don't know. I haven't played it. I should pick it up, but I'm too busy playing Dang Gang Rampa. So.
Gangbang Ronpa?
It's a new game. It's
Gangbang
it's a
Rampa.
spiritual successor to Honey Pop.
Dangin.
Are you allowed to play it on Twitch?
I don't think so. Probably not.
Not the
I think-
gangbang part.
Not the
no.
Gangbang Rampa.
I think you're allowed to play Dangan Rampa on Twitch.
No,
right?
yeah, you're definitely that game, but not
Not Gangbang
not
Ronda.
Gang
That-
Bang. No, no, no. That's a
Gangbang
different game.
Ronda.
Rhonda from
Gang
that
Bang
70s show.
Rhonda. This is getting weird. Kate said she played it. She left a comment. She said it took her
Cage?
Kate.
It's my wife Cage.
Johnny Cage?
Johnny
Bye-bye.
Cage played it.
Gangbanged Rhonda?
Everything's going off the rails. We're losing it already. But let's get down to the docket. So Bear is still going to be out for a couple of weeks. Make sure you send him his well wishes and all that good stuff. No one really cares about Bear except for maybe everybody. Today we've got a few things we're going to be talking about. As far as games are concerned, we're actually going to give Firewatch a proper talk. That'll be towards the end or the very last thing we talk about. A little bit of Layers of Fear. I want to talk a little bit about the Street Fighter V PC launch, or just launch in general. Warren Spector coming back to games with System Shock 3, The Division Open Beta, and then Bethesda with their 3 confirmed add-ons to Fallout 4, as well as 3 totally unique projects and IPs. And then whatever else comes to mind in case we miss something. So that is the docket for today. Why don't we get the small news out of the way? Is anybody here going to be playing The Division Open Beta at all?
Nope.
Nope.
I could be swayed if the feedback from it is really positive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very lukewarm on it right now, not as an insult, but just like not super invested in it. But if you guys played it, or if somebody else that we knew played it and was like, it's awesome, then I could be persuaded, I think.
I think I'm going to give it a shot. The first beta came around when I was at PAX South, so I missed out on that. Talking to a few people who had played it, it sounds kind of Borderlandsy, like a realistic Borderlands, I guess. Does that make sense? It's more these open. It's an open world, but PvP is limited to the dark zones. But the way combat is like bosses. I mean, you've got these realistic guns, right, in this realistic setting, but I know this has been talked about probably on a lot of news sites already, but it's a little bullet spongy, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
I heard that.
bosses come out, they look like every other dude. Like, there's no real super variation between them because you're just killing humans in different colored clothing. But the bosses, when they come out, like, it's just, you shoot them a lot. Doesn't matter how many times you hit them in the head. It's very, again, they defend it by calling it an RPG. But I remember when the announcement for The Division came out, and I was like, this looks really cool. I thought it was going to be a more realistic shooter or something, but what I've seen so far, and again, I haven't got my hands on it, looks a little bit, I don't want to say, I feel like mundane is the wrong word, but it's like something we've seen before with just like a realistic skin on it. Yeah, bland is a good word, I think.
What's the freaking premise, man? I don't even know.
Yeah. So, the New York, or maybe the world, has been hit by this giant virus that has wiped out almost all of humanity. And
only in New York, am I right?
So you're an agent, and you're like out, and so basically like you're the only people trying to like uphold the law, and you're trying to find a cure for it. And I think that's like the premise. It's really boring. It's a Tom Clancy story. It's a boring
single-player game.
No, it's online. So
like, online only.
I mean, like,
yeah, I think it's online only.
Like,
yeah. So the way it works, like as far as multiplayer is concerned, is you have like this hub where you can meet up with other players. If you go into the non-PvP zones, unless you're going out with a party, you're alone. You're never gonna run into another player out in like the non-dark zones. You can bring up to 4 people or 3 people having like a 4-person party, and there will be dungeons and raids, I guess, kind of MMO-y in the way in like the PvE aspect. When you go into the dark zone, that's where you will run into other players. And the dark zone has like the rarest loot, the best loot. You can only carry so much of it at a time. If you're carrying loot, you'll have like a special like backpack on, so other players know you're carrying loot. And if you kill another player, you become a rogue agent. And what rogue agent status does is all the players in the dark zone know where you are for like a couple of minutes. And if they kill you, they get this currency. If you get away and you're the rogue agent, you get this currency, and you can spend that currency on loot, basically.
Yeah, that actually sounds, that aspect of it sounds cool to me.
Yeah.
It's got like that DayZ H1Z1 kind of like competitive aspect. And Watch Dogs actually did that fairly well too, with the ability to kind of like infect other people's games and get in this like cat and mouse thing going on. I think that's kind of
a lot of games like Dark Souls has done that in a way for a while too, right? Like just kind of get into another person's game, you get rewarded with like humanity or whatever.
That's true, yeah.
But yeah, I think that you nailed it on the head. They kind of take that DayZ aspect of like survival and kind of bring it down to like the more base level of what's so engaging about it, the loot and killing somebody and getting the loot off of the person. Make it a little bit more accessible. I do kind of wish that the non-dark zone, there was like, you could run into players too. I mean, I guess I kind of wish the whole thing was PvP like that, because that would be fun, and maybe have a few small safe zones as opposed to having a few small dark zones. I think that would make it a little bit more engaging for me, but I mean, I can see why they did it. I just, from what I've seen gameplay wise, and I'll play it in probably the next day or two, it hasn't like grabbed me. And already the arguments are out there that the game doesn't look as good as the trailer, but I'm so sick of that argument. It looks good. Like the graphics for the game look great.
I'll take performance over like
agreed.
A few extra polygons, but if I honestly thought it was single player or like, you know, completely, so then maybe I will check it out myself.
Yeah, the open beta will be all this weekend. It just opened up for PC today. It started yesterday for Xbox One, and it's going to run through the weekend, as far as I understand. So if you want to play, I'm willing to give it a shot. So,
also, the Hitman beta is this weekend.
That's right. That started today.
That started this morning, and I actually am going to check that out because
I am too.
Me and Mathis are the only 2 people on Earth who like Absolution and don't consider it an affront to the stealth action genre.
It's not. I think we've talked about it a bunch, but I think it's good.
I'm excited to finally at least give it a chance, so we don't have to talk so much about hypotheticals anymore, and I can be like, oh, this is good or horrible, and then we'll know in like 12 hours.
Did you
that's pretty cool.
Play like the earlier ones? I forget what they're called.
So I played
Blood Money.
I played Absolution all the way through.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I played like a third of Blood Money. And it was good, but it just like, it didn't hold my attention, I guess, because I started with Absolution, so...
Well, the gameplay of Absolution is way tighter and it's more refined, obviously.
Yeah.
I think the argument, right, that people have is that Blood Money and the older ones have more options to tackle your hits.
They're like more sandboxy, kind of like mousetrappy sort of stuff that is cool.
Yeah.
Which I respect. I kind of feel like one of those kids who's like 18 now and grew up on the Star Wars prequels, and they're like, I don't really get, you know, The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
But and that might be a valid opinion anyway, but I'm interested to see if this is maybe a mix of the 2 design concepts, or if it's more Absolution-y, or if it's more Blood Money-y, and we'll see.
say they wanted to go more open in the new one, I think, but this is also serving as like a prequel. I think the beta is like its own thing.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like
The Ground Zeroes.
Yeah,
something like, I think it might be
yeah.
Ground Zeroes. It's like $17 or something.
We were talking about
Oh wait, you have to buy the beta?
I think you have to buy into the beta.
It's not a beta if you're purchasing
Is
the
it
beta.
like a down payment or something? Like,
Are you getting that money out of a
hold up.
release later?
Yes. Okay.
So you're pre-ordering it.
because
Here
it's
it is.
60 bucks the full thing.
Yeah, but it's $18 Canadian for the pre-order.
Okay.
It's the intro pack. With the intro pack, you'll get the prologue and the Paris episode, full access to contracts mode, escalation mode, elusive targets, and other live content. So it seems like you get access to the beta, and then some other like sandboxy type modes.
Okay.
And you don't have to pre-purchase
And the beta
the
is
full
the
game.
prologue, correct?
It's the prologue and maybe the Paris mission, but I think it's just the prologue. But I don't know, because now
I'm
I
assuming
think
that'll
it's
be available for purchase after it's out of beta and the game launches. Because I mean, if it's part of the story, I don't feel like
Yeah.
they wouldn't want to hold that off. So it does sound Ground Zeroes E.
I think that is kind of like a standalone preview that is also part of the game,
Okay.
which is weird. But I'm
Well,
like,
they're doing it episodically anyway, so it's not gonna be too out of the ordinary. I guess you could kind of consider it as an episode almost.
I'm more interested to see how it's gonna play. I think that's like the biggest like hitch I have is I'm curious what the gameplay is gonna end up being like with them separating it. I mean, I can't imagine gameplay wise it's gonna be very different the way that Absolution controlled, but
yeah,
I'm
we'll see.
yeah, we'll see how they handle more sandboxy elements of it, I guess.
It's crazy to think, but it has been like 3.5 years since Absolution. But,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think
it's been a while.
we talked about this like 2 weeks ago, I think. So
Yeah,
we don't
yeah.
need to go back into the Hitman thing. I just wanted
The
to
beta's
mention,
out.
Yeah. Beta's out. I'm gonna check it out, and we'll see. I mean, it's not a great sign that I can't even figure out how to get it. Like we or at least I know a couple of us have codes, so like we got it free
Yeah, I think I have a
basically.
code too.
And
I didn't even ask for one. They just sent me one. I don't even know why.
Must be
And then-
nice.
Yeah, they sent me one for like the PS4 release, like the
Yeah.
PS4 beta like a week ago, and now the
Yeah.
PC beta started today or yesterday or whatever.
Oh, does the PS4 one not work now? Because I guess I missed my chance.
Yeah, that
I
was
can't
the. I think the
I don't
PS4
know
one
if
was
it's
just the
still active.
weekend.
The PS4 one was like last weekend. I mean, you know what? I can just tell you, like right now. Give me a second.
We were
here.
prepared for this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I was.
Like we're prepared for any
That's,
conversation.
very
That's
good.
also
I was
true.
playing
That's
golf
like the-
with friends when we started here. Okay,
That's true, but it's a
The
good game.
beta will go live on Friday. That's today. The beta will end on February 22nd. I think that is Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So yeah, this one rolls all weekend.
Okay. Oh,
And
man,
the PlayStation
Division?
4 beta has ended as of Monday. Yes,
Yes,
Rip
it's a
code.
weekend thing.
you've missed your window.
So you're paying for a weekend event, everybody.
Mm.
Yes, but also the prologue.
Right, you're gonna get the prologue.
Which is not, I'm not saying that is something to be defended. I'm just saying the beta is like it's like buying Crackdown and getting the Halo 3 beta for like a week, right? Or
That's
2 weeks,
right.
whatever it ran
It's
for.
like buying the Halo 3 beta and getting Crackdown. I think
Right,
is the way
exactly.
most people position
That's
it.
also
It's-
true.
It's like buying an Xbox 360, getting Splinter Cell,
This is getting it too out of
whatever Splinter
control.
Cell game Double Agent it was. Well,
Conviction?
it was still in its wrapper, returning it to Walmart, saying that a friend gifted it to you was from
Yep.
Walmart, and then getting Crackdown in an exchange, and then exclusively playing that in the Halo 3 beta.
That
for
is
like 3 months.
exactly dead on. Hold on.
I couldn't have described it any better myself, I guess. So you have to
Crackdown.
choose Division or Hitman, or I mean,
gonna
play
do
both.
both.
But yeah, but that's just weird. Well, at least Division
I
is
choose
free.
Golf with friends.
Or golf with friends, or gang raid. Ooh, dang!
Whoa.
No,
Oh my
gang
God.
bang, gang,
Someone give us
Wowzers.
$50,000 quick.
gang bang. Rhonda is where I was going. Not I could. All right.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
You're way too
All right, this is why you don't give me control of the podcast. So next topic, we'll talk. God damn it! I cut myself off.
Or out of here.
Holy shit. Okay. Anyway, Fallout 4 is confirmed getting 3 new expansions starting in the spring, as well as Bethesda working on three new like separate IPs, I guess. I had never beat Fallout 4. I don't even understand like what I think they're doing. Like one is like across the water or something. It's like really far away.
It's like a harbor thingy.
Yeah, and then I don't think we know what the other two are.
The other two
we
are
do.
they just fit over top of it.
Okay.
Like one of them is a little bit of story, but it seems like it allows you to just craft robots that are basically
More
your
crafting stuff,
companions.
right? I remember reading about that.
So that one's
Yep.
going to be like $10 US. And then Wasteland Workshop allows you to basically capture creatures, and then you can have them
Pokemon
face
style?
off in battle against each other.
So
and
one
also
story
settlers.
thing and two like crafting side objective stuff.
Yeah. So
Alright,
the
interesting.
Pokemon Fallout is going to be $5, and then Far Harbor comes out in May, which is the real expansion.
Right.
And
That's where is that the one? It's like the what do you call them? The Sentinel, not the Sentinels.
the synths.
Since there's like a subset group of more synths, like another group of them. I think they're over there, and there's like the children of Eden. They're over there. I don't know. It's supposed to be pretty big, actually. But
Yeah, it's $25, so it's like it's up there. And it's a new case from Valentine's Detective Agency leads you on a search for a young woman in a secret colony of synths. Travel off the coast of Maine to the mysterious island of Far Harbor. Blah blah blah. Yes, Children of Adam. There you go.
that's a lot.
$25, huh? That's like the price of a whole season pass.
Yeah.
I thought that they announced the DLC like a little bit in advance to be like, well, if you want to get the season pass, like do it this week. Because you can see that if you want all the DLC, it will now be more expensive.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I think I'm just not going to go down that road at all.
I never even beat the vanilla game, so I probably won't go down that road either. Is it a continuation of like the main story? Is it like a whole new story? Because like I'm assuming it's gonna be like a whole new side story, much like all the other Fallout expansions are gonna be. I don't know how it ended. I mean,
I'm not going to spoil it, but my expectation is that it could function like New Vegas, where there'll just be like a spot on the map where it's like if you go here, you're going to go to this separate area where you'll do the DLC.
that did same thing with Fallout 3 and the Pittsburgh stealing. I can't remember the name of the expansion.
The Pittsburgh stealing.
The Pit.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, whatever. Pittsburgh Steelers. Go Steelers.
I finished all of Fallout 4.
Yeah, you did. Yep.
I don't care at all about like the robo crafting stuff or the Fallout Pokemon. Like that doesn't matter to me at all. Maybe I'll do Far Harbor, but I kind of think that when it comes around to May, that game's kind of going to be in the rearview mirror.
You don't think you'll go back to it?
I may, but I don't think... I'm like 50-50 on it. Like if I can do it on a substream or on several substreams, maybe, but I mean... I was kind of soured on Fallout 4's story in particular by the end of it, where I was like, yeah, I was just kind of like mainlining it to finish it. I still think it's a good game, but I was over it. I'm kind of ready to
just
be
like
done with
the
Fallout
Bethesda
4.
problem for the most part is they craft this amazing world that you can explore, but their main stories are typically kind of just boring or forgettable.
Yeah.
Where Obsidian is the other way around. Like their worlds are all right, they're interesting enough, but their stories are always more interesting to explore. This is weird balance.
They also, in the past few weeks, I think it was, they updated the survival mode in Fallout 4, so it's actually like, I think they brought permadeath back and some other things, so it's, because they took that out for whatever reason, and I guess a lot of people were disappointed, like, it's not really that challenging after a while, you just kind of walk through the game, so...
I
nice.
mean, I would be interested in potentially playing it. It's just at that price point, and then knowing how much other stuff is going to be going on in the world, I'm probably just not going to want to prioritize it. And this is not me like saying all of a sudden I don't like Fallout 4 or something. I'm still interested in going back to it and messing around with mods and stuff. But I think I'm at the point now I'm just going to give it some distance and let the mods fill out the world, and then I'm going to go back and review the pages and pages of stuff I missed and have fun.
Yeah, I don't think I'll go back to it personally. I mean, we've had the discussion before, but personally, I wasn't a huge fan of the changes to the point where I just kind of like, I played it for like the week of Fallout 4 that I did the stream for, and then when I was done with it, after the stream event that I did was done, I kind of just put the game away. I was like, I mean, it's fun. It's a good game. I don't think I'll go back, because the story didn't really hook me at all. And like you said, Ryan, you said like at the end, I heard a lot of people say that the end left them like they didn't care, just wanted to mainline it, just get it done and over with.
I will say, I think they made a really good decision framing it as like a Nick Valentine mission or like side quest, because he's like more interesting than any of the factions.
Yeah.
Cool. Like
Well-
he's actually like an interesting character that I kept him as a companion for a long time, but like the factions, I just don't. Nobody cares. Mostly nobody cares.
The companions, yeah, like for me, they were all like cardboard cutouts of a particular stereotype, but Nick Valentine was cool because there was intrigue and wondering, like, you know, a synth that was maybe like memories of a person that lived a long time ago. Like that's cool. Like I liked that a lot. But then you have like Dance, the good guy, and like the snippy reporter girl and all this other crap. I just didn't care.
Do you think they purposely weighted the writing in the direction of one character to sort of give more canon to a certain path through the game? Because I think most people generally agreed with you that he was the most interesting character, and I know a lot of people kept him as a companion. So if there's one character that seems heads and shoulders above everybody else, like, wouldn't that just be more like the real story?
Maybe they
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they had different writers for different characters, and like one
Yeah.
dude's a better writer, and he
Yeah, it's
wrote,
probably
wrote
that
him for
simple, to
Valentine.
be honest.
I don't know.
I could see Nick's point. Like one of the criticisms about Fallout 4 that I think particularly holds true once you finish the game is that they kind of force you into one track and then it branches like slightly throughout.
Yeah.
Well,
For,
yeah.
for the most part, you're like you bubble a little bit and then you're just on the same line for like the vast majority of the story. And you can kind of make decisions, but even like towards the end, sometimes you'll be like, I don't want to do your mission. And the guy's like, all right, you don't have a choice. Like
Yeah.
literally saying things like, well, you're going to have to come to terms with it because you have to do it. And you're like, all right.
That was and that was my biggest complaint about the game in the first place, was that the dialogue was really just like yes, 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 sarcastic, but yes.
Yeah.
Like there was no way to be a bad guy or to be like a neutral. And I mean, New Vegas gave you those options. Even if the ending, there's only like 3 or 4 different endings in New Vegas, you still had the option to be like good, bad, neutral, you know, looking out for yourself. And I missed that because that's what was fun about Fallout for me.
The thing I didn't like was that when you're given the options of what to say, and then they, you know, it's kind of a short form of it, and then they say like something full, and you're like, oh shit, like, you know, I didn't want them to like say those words. There was actually a mod somebody made, so it showed you what they would actually say, which was like
That came out within like a week too. I remember
Yeah.
that. I was like,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
That mod should have just been the way the game worked.
Yes. Just give me my lines of dialogue, man.
The dialogue kind of reminds me of, you know, how like XCOM 2 soldiers have attitudes.
Yeah.
So you'll like, you'll right click on a guy and he'll be like, yeah, whatever. But he still like runs over to where you clicked on. That's basically what you're doing. Is
You're
like,
an XCOM man.
The quest giver gives you a quest and you're like, yeah, suck my dick, but I'm going to go do it and then I'll be back. But
That's the best thing. XCOM 2 makes me laugh, like with like the witty, like stupid response your soldiers give you while they're under fire and their friend died right next to them. But they're like, whatever. Well, I guess I'll do it. It's like, you're dumb. Well, actually, I'm curious now, Ryan. Looking back at it and having some time with looking back at Fallout 4, because you were strongly like, this is a great game.
yeah,
When you were playing it, do you still feel that way now?
I think it gets worse the more you play, and I think it's better in the moment than it is looking back. Because like with Fallout New Vegas, looking back, you're like, oh, I had all these like cool emerging gameplay stories, but the actual like moment to moment clicking on units to murder them was a little janky.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Whereas
yeah.
Fallout 4 is like inverted, where the shooting was like really nice. It's really satisfying. But when I look back, I'm mostly like, it was pretty much just like an on-rails RPG for the most part. That gave you the illusion of choice most of the time.
Well, the one choice you did have was where you go in the world at any given moment. Like, you don't have to follow the track until you have to follow the track. And if you choose to not play it that way, you can dick around for hours and not do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fair. Like if you're the kind of player that is into like especially like the crafting and settlement building stuff, I think it's probably more of a robust experience. But I was like, I don't want to touch this at all. I found it like super janky. It was like, you know, build like the generator here. You need like all this scrap to do it.
Weird.
Go run around and like scrap these like cars that have not been working for like 50 years and build a build a generator with wires that connect to it. Basically, whenever I had to do that for a story quest, which you only had to do like once or twice, I had to have chat be like, okay, chat, to make me like a flow chart of like, they're like, okay, place the conduit here and then just like right click a wire that runs to here. And yeah.
It's definitely not intuitive how they did it, but like some people have done some pretty amazing stuff that they sat there for several hours doing. Like, I kind of enjoyed that element of it, but after a while, the thing about the settlements was like, you'd have 10 settlements a dozen, whatever it may be. And then every time you go back, what's his face with the funny hat was like, all right, somebody got kidnapped at this one. I need you to go. And then you go and do it. And then you come back and be like, okay, like these guys need some defenses. And like,
it's an engine for tedium at that point.
Yeah. So.
That's been something in the Bethesda engine for a long time, since Oblivion, I think, or even Skyrim, where they're like endless quests, but really it's just like the same thing.
3 permutations of quests endlessly.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, you can go grind this if you want, if you're really bored.
Yeah.
For me, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say too, like when they first showed the trailer, and who's the what isn't it Todd
Todd Howard,
yeah. It was like there's really millions of combinations for guns and stuff, and it's like that's cool. And I mean, I guess on paper, yeah, but then you go into the guns, and it's just like, all right, like this is clearly the best option for like there might be 2 or 3 different scopes you might want to use depending on how you're using the gun, but it's like mostly like this is the best item. Eventually, you're just gonna do the best of everything, so it's like there's less-ish options.
Right. I mean, you're always gonna min-max and find the thing that works best. I mean, I'm sure XCOM 2 in a way could be like thousands of different weapon combinations. You could put like different mods on your weapons, or even Borderlands has that like.
I'm gonna say the same.
Millions.
If they're all white
different
drops, you're not gonna consider them
Right.
options.
Exactly.
Trash.
Yeah, because you're just gonna throw away the bullshit and just keep the good stuff. You're never really going to venture into anything really below that, even though. You know, it's great. Like you said, it's great for a selling point on the back of the box. Be like millions of weapon combos. Like, not. I mean, yes, but no. It's funny.
Lets us generate the hype and let our minds run wild, and then create situations where we get our expectations broken.
Well, even during the trailer for Todd Howard's like the announcement, I remember them talking about settlements, and people were like, "This is gonna be amazing," and it really didn't.
Yeah, I was in there.
Yeah, it didn't really turn into much. For me, I feel like I was the inverse. I ignored the main story, and I just built like a hangar for all my armors, and like my favorite thing was to go out into the world and find the armors and just collect the different armors. And then I made like the hooker tower that we talked about, like the first. Remember talking about that, like in the Fallout thing. Like that was the thing I found the most enjoyment out of. But I completely just
so
ignored the main
you're
story.
telling me you collect amiibos in video games?
That's true, but I used them. Actually, that's a lie. I didn't really use them because I didn't want to waste like the power cores for them. But
You gotta get the what was
take
it?
it off the rack.
Did you guys
exactly.
ever get the is it the X61 or whatever? It's like
I don't remember.
the
Maybe.
best super rare. I think you can only get it in like 2 or 3 places or
Then
something.
I
But
probably did not.
Nope.
oh, apparently it's cool.
Interesting. Well, I'll be curious to see if any of us go back to the expansion when it comes out. I'm assuming Ryan, like maybe for like a sub stream you'll do it, and I'll be curious to know your thoughts. I probably won't touch it personally.
What I'm curious to see is more of like a long-term view. If, because I remember when New Vegas came out, and I didn't play New Vegas when it came out, the perception was that it's like good but broken, like super janky.
Oh, it was really broken.
It was getting like, 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 for most places. Now it's considered like a masterpiece of the genre, even though it's janky. In the intervening few years, they had the extra DLC came out that was largely good and mostly bug fixed it, so it's not like just crashing all the time. I'll be interested to see how Fallout 4 looks when we look back on it in like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, the general consensus on what Fallout 4 is.
If
And
it's
when
just more,
Fallout 5 exists also.
Yeah,
Once there's a
possibly,
new
yeah.
engine, what do we think of this last engine now?
I hope, part of me hopes that Bethesda hands the engine over to like Obsidian again, and we see like a New Vegas-y side story or game or whatever where they give you options and choice. Because the game, I know it's still the creation engine or whatever it's called. I know it's still their old engine just prettied up. But the gunplay, like you said, was fun. Like, I enjoyed the gunplay. If I could take that gunplay and put it in a New Vegas, like, storyline, I'd be a very happy guy. I could give a shit about the crafting anymore. Like, it was fun, but oh well.
if they make a like a side story to this that was like a lot more sandboxy, but had the same gunplay, I think people would like come back in droves. Not that Fallout 4 wasn't like massively successful, but I think like it would also, appeal to the curmudgeons like us who are like, it's a little disappointing, or at least not what we always wanted anyway.
Right. Well, that'll be exciting. We'll see that, like you said, in May with the new expansion packs, and we'll see how it ends up being. I guess we can go down to I don't know what to say about it, but Warren Spector is coming back to gaming for System Shock 3. System Shock 3 was announced officially like a month ago, I think. Maybe like 2 months ago, which I never played the original System Shock 1 or 2. I never played it. Heard it was great. Heard it's an amazing thing. So good, you could tell me all about it. All I know about is like an AI computer. But Warren Spector, he made the last game he made, wasn't it like the Disney Mickey game? Not Castle Evolution, the paint one.
The painting one.
Epic Mickey, right. And that was kind of a pretty hard flop. But he's
was there a sequel at least too? I thought there's at least one.
There's 2 Epic Mickeys, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one was, I don't know if there was like, it was a sequel or whatever, but I'm pretty sure it was considered a flop and he kind of stepped away from gaming after that. But he's back for System Shock 3, which is big because he's kind of considered a legend in gaming. And as someone who didn't play System Shock but know it's an amazing game, I'm excited for it. It's kind of like it's a first-person shooter RPG, much like I guess Fallout is now. But it did it back in like the late 90s. I never played, like I said, never played the System Shock 1 or 2, so I don't know what if it did System Shock 2 lead off to a point where there could be a System Shock 3?
I'm trying to remember the ending now, and it's been so many years. I think it was sort of a vague ending the way Half-Life 1 was, where it's sort of like everything kind of up in the air.
Really? They left it like kind of hanging?
You kill some monstrous evil thing at the end, and that's all I can really remember. I kept falling into this pit, and there was like a brain monster or something. Again, it's been years.
Brain monster. Sounds like a Metroid.
Like 1997, right?
Yeah, late 90s, I'm pretty sure.
It had a cool, more horrific theme and tone than I think a lot of games that went for that kind of thing back then were able to pull off. It actually lasted with most players, I got the impression, especially given how infamous it is now.
And aren't they remaking System Shock 2? Or like retouching it up, maybe? Remastering it, maybe?
Yeah, actually, that was a question I had. And I was trying to find out about it because Ken Levine, I thought, was working on like a new System Shock or something. But I might be like totally misremembering that.
System Shock is being reimagined, and we've got the first look. All right, Polygon. It looks like System Shock. Oh, maybe it's the first System Shock. System Shock 1. This was November 25th, 2015. System Shock Enhanced Edition launched in September, but developer Night Dive Studios was not content. It looks like, I can give you the... I'll put the link in chat so everybody
developer
can...
Night Dev Studios?
That's what it... Night
Dev?
Night Dive. Night Dive.
Night Dive,
okay.
okay.
The Twitch people, okay.
Yeah.
Those guys are doing everything these days.
But it looks like, they're just kind of redoing it in maybe a different... Yeah, definitely a different engine. But it might be the first one. I thought they were redoing the second one, too, but I might be wrong.
Oh, Night Dive, I think they're the same people that did the remake of Turok that they just recently re-released.
Oh, how was that? Did you play it?
Yeah, it was decent. I mean, the game is not like transcendent or anything. Now it's the game, but works properly and a little prettier.
All right, interesting.
I think the interesting thing to tease out of this story is that maybe this is revisionist history, but it seems like the golden age of PC gaming for a lot of people is that like late 90s,
early 2000s.
Yeah, like Deus Ex, System Shock 2, Half-Life, stuff like that. And then there was kind of like a cynical period, not even to like shit on PopCap or something, but where like PC gaming was like Bejeweled 3 and Plants vs. Zombies and Peggle. I don't even mean that as an insult because those are good games.
The accessibility genre.
Exactly. I mean, they're like casual gaming kind of took off on PCs and kind of buoyed it when like the 360 and the PS3 and the Wii were the dominant force in gaming. It's cool now that we have the ability for these developers to go back and be like, yeah, the time's right for us to make like 2 new XCOM games and Xenonauts, and Wasteland 2 and like all this other stuff.
We have like a possible new vampire RPG in the works, a Paradox, and
exactly like hardcore PC gaming.
That's where I'm at. I'm like, give me more vampire.
It's in a place where it can actually come back now, which is neat that the audience is there.
Maybe they just all need a paycheck.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah, give me the game. Well, it almost lends itself to like PC gaming becoming more prominent again as time goes on, I guess. I mean, I think that time where you're saying like casual games on PC, like consoles were kind of like taking off, I guess, in that era with Xbox and PS2 and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know if we've talked about it, but I don't know why PC gaming is once again becoming a dominant force. I don't understand why that's happening.
I mean, it's
now.
Like a lead platform instead of sort of just a thing you port console games to.
Because the PC is becoming a dominant console, I guess, to play games on. And I don't know what kicked it off in that way, but because it is, we're getting these games. Like XCOM 2 is a PC exclusive, and it's really good. I mean, it needs a little bit of like optimization love, but
very true.
Generally, it's a great game. I don't know why. Like, what caused it? I don't know.
Steam has helped.
Steam,
I'm sure.
yeah, that's true. Steam is
Accessibility.
definitely a huge thing.
It's kind of like
Steam did. Yeah, chat's like Steam. Yeah, you're right. It definitely had to have been Steam, right?
I think too, like a lot of gamers are like, kind of. It's like my PC is my baby or whatever. They're kind of cherished, and especially a lot of people that put them together and stuff like that. And I think it's just kind of the hobby of PC building has really come back. It's almost like vinyl. Like, why is vinyl coming back, kind of thing? But it's part of the whole experience of like the album, putting it out, listening to it. Objectively, maybe it's at a point where it's not always better, but it's the whole experience, I guess, is kind of something that makes people happy. But
I'd like to believe that it has something to do with the perseverance of indie games and the way that they've come together to sort of give the impression for larger developers that there is a population here to tap into.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of that has to do with how accessible dev tools are now and the sense of community that these people have brought together. So in a way, the one has served the other, and then the other has served the original again. They both have sort of made an ecosystem around each other, indie games and AAA.
That's true.
I mean, honestly, around, 2010 or so, it's kicked off a really strong period of indie games becoming a force that people became aware of. And they became to now, I think, more mass media in a way. People are now aware that indie games are like their own thing. And to the point where it's kind of meshed in with AAA a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree for
ahead.
sure with all of that. And like kind of from a tertiary perspective, I think maybe around like 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, the last console generation just went on so long that people were like,
that's also
why am I
true,
paying $60 for like Lord of the Rings, Shadow of Mordor, right? When I could get the same thing on PC cheaper if I wait like 6 months for it as well, and it'll look better.
Yeah.
So we are getting to the point where like these 360 games are coming out, and you're like, man, this is like, it looks like a 9-year-old console right now. So I think that helped it a lot.
I forgot that the old console generation went on for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. The 360 came out in 2005. And then the Xbox One came out. I guess it was
2014.
I guess it was 2013. But still, that's 8 years.
It's long.
Now, like the average console generation before that was like 5. Like we're coming to the point where this year is like the 4-year anniversary of the Wii U. If we were living in like 10 years ago, we'd be like, I guess we're already saying what's the next Nintendo console, but we'd be like, this is like the halfway point at least of this console generation. It's pretty ridiculous.
I can't, but yeah, that's nuts actually. And we already know that Nintendo's working on a new console, like the NXT or whatever it's being coded as.
I don't know about you guys, but I still feel like the Wii U and the PS4 and the Xbox One are like in their infancy. That's
like, how it feels for me too.
I'm waiting for like, even though I own them, I'm like waiting for something to sell me on them.
Yeah.
I feel in both directions. I feel like they haven't really gotten a foothold, but also they're outdated at the same time, which doesn't really make any sense.
It's a weird generation. And this is not to shit on any of them. I think they all have differential strengths and weaknesses, some more than others and some more than others for certain people. But yeah, it's weird. Like I just can't, for anything that's multi-platform, the only reason I play it on my console right now is because my couch is out there. And I know that basically it's like I'm too lazy to do the half-hour setup that it would take to make my PC work out there right now.
I guess like another big thing, I guess the upside of having a console generation that went on as long as it did is that there was a bajillion reasons to own one. There's so many games. But even now, I mean, we can look at what's the reason to own a console? Either timed exclusives or exclusives. But even like big stuff, especially like for us, like Dark Souls, now Dark Souls 3 is officially announced of coming out on the PC at the same time. It's already up on Steam for pre-order and all that stuff. And that was like
Is it the same time?
I didn't think
Is it not the same time?
I thought it was like 2 weeks later or something.
Okay, 2 weeks, that's not that.
But yeah, that's like,
not a big deal.
It means a lot for search rankings.
For search rankings, yeah, as like a job, that makes sense. Let me look exactly when it's coming out.
It might be closer to 3 weeks. March 24th on consoles. And on PC, I think it's April 11th.
It is April 11th, 2016 for PC. So for me, that's not a big deal because I won't worry about doing like a series on it. I guess it's still a big thing for if you're gonna do a series on it. I mean, but recording off console is also a fucking pain in the ass. So
I'm not mad at anybody but Namco.
They don't have to do it, man. They don't have to make it wait. I mean, it's probably just payment from.
It's to get people to buy it twice, probably. That might be the best timing they could figure out that pissed off the least amount of people and still got what they wanted.
Oh, it's March 24th in Japan, April 11th everyone else.
Oh, so it is going to be the same time.
I'm no longer mad then.
Oh, okay. So it's the same time over here.
It is the same?
Apparently it is the same.
Oh, shit. All right.
Dark Souls 3 North America release date is April 12th.
So it's the same. It's going to be the same day.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, so there you go.
Yeah,
Sweet, I don't have to get backseated.
That's awesome.
Except by those scumbag Japanese coming into your chat.
God damn it. No, that's great though. That's a big thing because again, I remember Dark Souls 2. You, Nick, and Josh, like the three of you got early copies for the 360, and we're playing it and streaming it and recording it. But now, like the PC version, when it did eventually come out, like ran better, and there were mods that made Dark Souls 1 run like amazingly. I don't have to worry about playing it at like 30 frames or whatever. So now that's coming out at the same time.
Unless it's entirely broken, which we have to cross that bridge.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But as far as like YouTube recording is concerned and like optimal performance, fingers crossed, the PC is the way to go. And Dark Souls, that's big. I'm surprised.
Yay! I love not being mad.
That's great. Are we still mad? No, we're not mad anymore, Dan. It's all good. We're not mad. Just be mad at Japan. That's fine. So that's interesting. But back to, I guess, the topic, Warren Spector coming back for System Shock 3 is exciting.
That was a topic we were talking about.
Hey, I mean, I don't know much about the guy outside that he's like a legend in the gaming industry for the games he's produced. And then, you know, Disney, the Mickey Mouse game was kind of a flop. I never played it, so. But coming back for System Shock 3, I mean, maybe I should play System Shock 1 and 2. I don't know. I guess I should. It's supposed to be great.
As somebody, I never played System Shock 1 or 2, and really I haven't played any. I've been thinking of going and playing BioShock.
Did you never play BioShock?
2 and 3. I played like 10 minutes of it, and I don't know why I only did that, but yeah, I've been thinking of going back to them. But what for System Shock 1 and 2? What made them great? Is it like story? Was it mechanics? What is it like?
Largely the atmosphere was a bit more effective than a lot of the games at the time. It really did paint a compelling universe. It had a little bit of like you can spec into a couple of different fields. There's a few different ways to play through it. Like a really dumbed down Deus Ex. Well, I guess more like the original Deus Ex, which is, it's not like it gives you a ton of choices, but there are a few and they branch a little bit, and that's fun. And, you know, over the years, people sort of developed a bit of a cult attraction to it. And I'm not even sure at the time when it came out that it was as successful as people see it now, sort of like New Vegas, perhaps. It's probably worth playing. It's just I don't think you're going to get your freaking socks blown off or anything. It's a cool game, but it's like
then, but
yeah, it's a bit of a novelty. It's like playing Quake for the first time or something now.
Oh, I love Quake.
Yeah, bad example. I love Quake too.
Well, it's exciting. We'll see what ends up happening. I will if they do redo both of the System Shocks, I'll probably pick them up and play them. I'm not opposed to playing older games at all, as long as they look mediocre to my eyeballs. I'll be fine. So that's cool. As far as newer games coming out, Ryan, you're kind of a fighting gamer. We're kind of a fighting game guy. I'm not.
Like
Nick, you are too, aren't you?
Street Fighter.
I've played a lot of fighting games, but I've never been hugely into Street Fighter, unfortunately.
Well, Street Fighter V launched, everybody, and to the kind of dismay of a lot of people, lacking a ton of stuff, and having broken servers on day one for the most part. I don't know if those have probably been fixed, or at least are being fixed. But so the big thing with Street Fighter V, for those who don't know, when it launched, it only launched with 16 characters. It is missing arcade mode completely. There is no lobby mode, which was all part.
Keep in mind, 16 characters down from 39 in the last Street Fighter 4 iteration.
Right. So we got to wait for a Street Fighter V Ultimate.
No. They're adding DLC in apparently for free. There's an in-game currency you can unlock by playing the game like crazy, and then you can buy them with the in-game currency. I don't know if you'll be allowed to buy them separately. Maybe you will. Probably
Free DLC.
Get, the Street Fighter V deluxe edition that comes with a season pass, it's only $110 Canadian.
That's it, only $110. Holy shit. So yeah, let me finish the problems. Wow, that's insane. $110. Yeah, I guess the single player is kind of pretty lackluster. There's no arcade mode. It's missing outside of arcade mode, like the lobby. It's got for the PC. So it only came out on PC and PS4. No Xbox One release. But the fight sticks that work on the PS4 are not compatible with the PC version. There's like a very small subset of fight sticks that work with the PC version, unless you get like a third-party program to manually map the buttons, like Joy-to-Key essentially, for all those. So that's like a clusterfuck. And the servers did not work on day 1 or day 2. So it's kind of like this bare bones, almost people are assuming this incomplete game being put out both on PS4 and the PC, not just the PC version. People are pissed about it.
I watched the port report that TV did on it, and the funniest thing to me was the fact that he said, this is, like you said, the platforms are PC and PS4. And if you play on the PC, it only will support 360 controllers and not PS4 controllers.
It's
like,
really weird. I guess it's like stupidly weird.
And you gotta like use X-Padder to use a bunch of different controllers with it, which, you know, the fighting games are kind of a big deal. You need to be able to play them the way that you intend to play them. And if you're gonna buy it on PC, you want it to run as well as it would on a console. I mean, graphically, it seems to be fine. It seems to be solid enough. But things like that is just like unnecessary. Just create the polished version of it that you intend to release.
This has been going on with fighting games for a long time. Lately, I feel like, with like fighting games being released broken or incomplete or missing a ton of content. I mean, we all remember the freaking Mortal Kombat disaster launch that came out like 6 or 7 months ago, whatever it is. It sucks that this happens. Like, as chat's calling it, like an early access mainstream release. It does feel like it's missing core features that were part of Street Fighter 4, the first iteration of Street Fighter 4 that launched years ago. Yeah. Why is this even acceptable? Why is this something that they're even doing? Like, do they feel like they were pressured to get this game out? I doubt it. They knew that Street Fighter fans were gonna buy it. I don't know. It's ridiculous. I don't understand.
That's what I don't get. Like, and I don't mean to put down fighting games. Like, I used to be into them a lot more when I was a kid. You know, the earlier Street Fighters and Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur.
I miss Soul Calibur.
Dead or Alive was good too, but I kind of just lost my way because they felt a little too formulaic to me. It's just like, okay, you know, they update, you know, better animations, more boob jiggle, and, you know, the various things. So I've kind of lost touch with them. But like you're going on about all these issues with it. I'm just like, how do you screw that up? Like, the meetings they must have had, I can't imagine like how wretched they were. It's just like, how do you...
I heard some weird defenses about, like, my biggest complaint was, why are there only 16 characters? That just seems ridiculous. They added 4 new characters, and so the fighting game community and some of the responses I've seen were like, well, they did this on purpose because they wanted you to get used to the smaller amount of matchups so you'd have better experience, and then they add the characters in little by little. Also, obviously, the characters take a lot of time to make, perfect balance, etc., to put into the economy of the game. That seems reasonable at face value, but at the same time, like, we just finished paying $80 for the compilation of Street Fighter 4 if you started at vanilla and worked your way up. So then to drop from all these characters you might have known and worked for years at to get good at, to then lose half of them seems weird to me. And then the other thing was, like, the servers being broken on day 1. People just expect that now, and
we shouldn't.
They think it's reasonable to say you should expect that from any game that's online. Then step 2 is, why the hell is it always online? It's a fighting game.
I'm seeing in chat a ton of people saying like they were pressured to get it out for Evo, and like that the game wouldn't get recognition if it wasn't ready for Evo. That's, in my opinion. I mean, maybe I'm so far out of the professional fighting game loop, but that's bullshit. Because people are going to buy Street Fighter 5 when it...
rationalization to me. That's what
exactly. It sounds like you're rationalizing a rush product. If they didn't release it for Evo, it wouldn't be at Evo. It'll be there next year. And maybe if they gave it 6 more months, you'd have a better game because of it. Like, don't tell me that people are... Like, Street Fighter 5 is not going to have a good launch because it wasn't ready for Evo. I guarantee...
It'll still be at Evo next year.
Right, exactly.
I'm not defending the way that it came out. I'm just saying, like, this is when did Street Fighter 4 come out? It came out in like 2008 or something, right? 2007.
Yeah, something like that. And
they're gonna
like
be making
every year.
They're gonna be making DLC iterations, patches on this for like 7 years. Like, although I do think it is kind of bullshit that they're treating it as a platform for Street Fighter instead of like I guess a product. I mean, it's gonna be it's like if Dota 2 came out and it was a little shitty. I mean, it's still gonna get there probably. It doesn't matter to me because if I'm ever gonna get Street Fighter 5, it's gonna be like the Street Fighter 5 with all the DLC included for like $20 in a Steam sale in like 2.5 years. But I wonder if because none of us are in the fighting game community, we're actually like we have blinders on for this being a meaningful.
I mean, it's possible, yeah.
I don't know, how do people in the fighting game community feel? Like if you're a Super Street Fighter 4 player right now, I imagine you just get Street Fighter 5 and just tough it out, right?
It's probably a no-brainer. I think you just stick with the community, just do whatever happens, and you just buy it.
Yep.
The chat is right though, Ryan. Dota 2 Reborn was a fucking broken mess.
I believe that.
It was a terrible broken mess. I guess the difference is though it's free. You're not paying $60 for it. Yeah, I do wonder if because we're not so we're not so into the pro fighting scene, if we're just missing something. But my mind tells me like just wait. Like it's gonna be, it's gonna be there next year. It's gonna sell well no matter what. The fighting community's gonna eat it up when it comes out, whenever it is. And if rushing it out for whatever tournament, whether it be Evo, a Capcom one, or whatever, is the reason it got rushed out, I don't think it's a good excuse.
I don't even necessarily understand why we needed Street Fighter 5. Like, wasn't for the engine that could have done anything 5 did?
How could they keep making money on 4 though?
No, I know it's an unrealistic thing to say. I'm just kind of speculating. Like, what did they really bring to the game with 5? I know they redid a bunch of things and they changed the way some meter stuff works, but it's just I don't see a meaningful reason to drop back down to stage 0 again and work your way back up.
I guess like what you could do with a proper numbered sequel is like completely change how a lot of the main characters just work. So maybe like Dalsim works in a very particular way in Street Fighter 4, and then you go to 5 and you take that opportunity to change it, and like the way a Dalsim player plays him is now going to be completely different because it's different. Like he just controls differently. His combos are totally different. I guess that's what you can do between numbered sequels.
So is there a point though where people just go, it doesn't matter what we change, we just have to change something because it needs to be different from the way it was? So it's not like it's an upgrade, it's like a side grade.
Yeah,
with a higher number.
Yeah, true. But I mean, like, Street Fighter 4 was big because there wasn't, like, a Street Fighter for how long? So, I mean, they still have time to, I guess, buy themselves time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, people are saying there's a lot of some character differences and whatnot. But, again, I don't know. I'd like to get into, like, the fight. Personally, as far as just fighting games are concerned, like, I'd like to get into them, but they're just so far above me. I just can't. There's, like, a time investment there that I just can't put in.
I feel like you can't be, well, that's not fair. I feel like I can't be a casual fighting game player. It just
that's
like
my problem too. Yeah.
It doesn't jive with me. It takes like, unless you start from 0 or close to 0 with somebody that's like near your skill level, it takes like 60 hours to get to mediocrity. Which is, it's amazing that it rewards skill and practice so much, especially once you get past that threshold, it seems. But like for me, I don't think I can do it. At least not anymore.
It's like Dota 2. It's like, or any like MOBA or whatever competitive game. It's like you need to put in a ton of time. And the way I play, I'm competitive, so I don't like to be like. I get like fighting games. I'm mad that I'm button mashing because I don't understand the combos, and I don't have the time. Like I don't have 60 hours to put in to understand the base concept of the game. To like Ryan said, to be mediocre.
That was like whenever in university times, and I'd visit Ryan, that a common game to play with Super Smash Bros. And I would just sit on the sidelines because I never really played it or got into it well enough. And these guys, they're pretty good, at least compared to me, who knows nothing. So it's just like I didn't want to play. I'd rather just sit and drink alcohol and watch them play. Because like I would join in every once in a while and it's like, all right, I'm gonna die. Yeah. So and it's the same thing when I had some housemates that were pretty big into Street Fighter. And I was just like, I want to play with you guys. I like playing video games, but I'm not having fun button mashing and getting my ass kicked. And
I think it depends on what game it is as well. Like, I'm really dedicated to Blaze Blue. That's the one game that, as far as fighting games go, I absolutely love and will buy every iteration of. And I'm aware that they're taking advantage of me doing that. But I'm kind of okay with it to the extent that I just need my next fix of Blaze Blue. It doesn't matter if they just added 2 more characters. I go and I spend $40 more on it. And I know that's, like, super the wrong mentality to have. It's like, it's kind of,
Is
you
it
know,
though? I mean, like, if you're a fan of the
hypocrisy.
game, you're a fan of the game. You
yeah,
know?
but I say things like don't ever pre-order games, and then I go, okay, every 6 months I need to spend another $40 on 2 more characters.
Do they really do that? Is it like an every 6 month thing with Blaze Blue?
No, it's not. I'm exaggerating.
Once
They've
like every
done it-
year or two?
They've done it once, maybe, that it's been just 2 characters. Usually it's like 3 or 4 characters, and then they do a refresh where it's like they do some move balances, they add some new stages, they add a new story mode. The story modes are really superficial generally. They're more like visual novels where you click through dialogue. But there are like branching paths and stuff, which can take quite a lot of hours to sort through. But yeah, I just keep buying that series. And when I was in the midst of my insanity of it, when I had a few friends IRL that played it, I would buy both the PS3 and 360 versions because I was that dedicated. Like, didn't matter which one my friend had. I wanted to be able to play both of them. And then I'd have to try and rank up myself on both iterations of the game in the online community, which was also a ton of work. I spent probably 100 hours on just one of them,
And that's
trying to
why-
get to like level 30.
I can't play fighting games with people because you're all playing chess and I'm playing checkers.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, but I'm not
yeah.
competitive like that though. Like I love it, but I'm not that good at it, but I love it anyway.
But you have an understanding of it that someone like me who'd be not into it as hardcore doesn't have. So you may not be that good at it, but you would dance on my face and I would just get my ass kicked. And that's not, you know.
Maybe, maybe not.
Those
And
that
every
cannot
so often
do-
I lose to new people too. It just happens.
I feel like for me, like the Street Fighter V discussion is almost on the level of talking about like a balance change to League of Legends or something like that. Like it's like talking about like a theoretical physics discovery. Like I have no idea what people in the fighting game community want. I think it's shitty that it came out and it didn't work, and it seems like it's really feature barren. But I don't know. Maybe people in the fighting game community are just like, well, we gotta tough it out, or maybe they're mad. Like I don't know. The fighting game
something
community,
iframes, something
Yeah.
hitbox.
exactly. Like it's its own fairly like insular community, and I feel that like anything I could say about it more passionately than I'm saying right now would just come across as like misinformed, basically.
I remember at GameStop we had these guides for Super Street Fighter
Jesus.
4 that were like the ultimate hitbox compilation. It was like 1,000 pages of every single box that could possibly be interacted with, and people just memorized that shit.
No way.
If you're super interested or super into it, memorizing stuff is not that hard. But for me, it's like, it's goddamn homework. I wouldn't be able to do
It
it.
just feels like magic, the people that get it. And I've just never felt like
Magic the
Street
Gathering?
Fighter just never clicked with me for some reason. The way that game feels just never clicked with me. But Blaze Blue it did, and Soul Calibur it did, and to some degree Mortal Kombat for a while it did. So it's really all about trying a bunch of different ones till you find the one that clicks with you.
Mortal Kombat is the only game I think button mashing still felt good because it's such a visceral reaction to like your combos, which I enjoyed.
Dude, in Persona 4 Arena, button mashing was the best.
Did
But
you do a few videos on that?
Dude, that game was really fun as a person who's a casual fighting game fan because it had the auto combo.
Oh.
Where
They have that in Blaze Blue as well.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I guess it's the same company. So basically there was a combo that was like not optimal but pretty good. And if you just kept hitting like the light attack button, it would just automatically
would
change
do
it
it
as soon
for
as
you?
you landed the first hit.
When you when was that an online feature too? If you play people
Yeah.
online?
Yeah, but it
Could-
declared that you used it on Blaze Blue anyway.
Okay, so like, but they don't match you up against other people who only use auto combo. They'll put you.
In Persona they'll match you up against anybody.
Yeah, it's
Really?
just- It's,
Like-
it's
like-
just
Oh,
like a
God.
handicap.
I can't imagine that would be like the most frustrating thing as like someone who's like trying to learn and understands the combos, and then this guy just like presses X a couple times, just like auto combos me, and I would throw
You
my
still
hands.
kind of
in
have
the
to
air.
know the timing, so you got to watch them being done, the combos. I mean, but yeah, it really does make it.
It's
easier.
like it's theoretically supposed to be like the difference between driving like an automatic transmission and a standard
That's fiction.
transmission. Like you should have an advantage if you're driving a manual transmission, but it I imagine is pretty salt-inducing when a person who doesn't know what they're doing just like gets a lucky hit in and then takes off like 30% of your HP and only does that over and over and over. I think it means that like brand new players can be better than people who suck but are trying actively
learn.
to get better.
Yeah.
which is I liked it a lot because it actually made it accessible and it became more of like a kind of like a one button fighting game. But
and like the minutia of that is essentially you could just mash a button and you'd go down the same chain of a combo every time. But if you're good at it, you know where you can cancel out of a move and go to a different track of that combo, or break the combo entirely and move somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you just don't have that kind of level of granularity if you're using the dial a combo thing.
I feel
So
like
it's a nice option, but it's silly.
the fear for me in going down that road, if I was like to get good at auto combos, like, learning timing and when to do it and when not to do it, you get so good at being bad that if like you would hit a ceiling, and if you want to go back and like try and learn how to like properly play, you're playing at even bigger disadvantage because like you only know how to be good at the terrible habit. You're just like reinforcing a bad habit, I guess.
The difference though was that it meant that the first time you signed on, you weren't going to lose like 30 games in a row.
Yep.
Like you could actually, it made it so that, and I can understand why a lot of people wouldn't like auto combos, but for me, it made it so I could play like 20 hours of Persona 4 Arena and have fun with it without, as someone in chat said, like losing 10 times in a row and then being like, okay, I'm either going to never play this again or make it my life's mission to become a competitive level player. So
You're going to go be at the next Evo.
Exactly. Dude, I would have loved to go to Evo and just auto combo.
Be the guy who's like, I'm gonna auto combo my way to #1, baby. It's gonna be great. Oh, that'd be awesome if you could like competitively be the auto combo guy.
Yeah, I'd probably get killed, like assassinated outside of the convention or something.
The first day's over, heading back to your hotel, just get shanked.
A mob riot. They would pull you apart in the audience.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, Street Fighter V is available now on Steam and PS4 for $60. You can check it out if you are so inclined or heavily into the fighting scene, even if you're okay with the lackluster launch. I mean, I know there are people who are still playing and enjoying it.
I'll wait until the DLC happens and then check it out. The first character comes in like July, though, so it's going to be a while.
That's a long-ass wait for one more character.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I'm going to go remortgage my house so I can get it.
Oh.
Sad days. Well, that wraps it up for the news that's been kind of in our faces for the past week. We'll move on to games that we've been playing. We've got a couple to talk about. Well, I think me and Nick are the only one that's played this game that's coming up, is Layers of Fear. I know Malf was gonna play it, but you got caught up by Cities Skylines Snowfall expansion. I'm sure. Are you loving it?
I won't get too much into it. But I'm very conflicted because basically I had to start a new save, whether I wanted to or not, or a new city to play the Snowfall map, but like 95% of the mods that I had on my old city, not like a ton of them, they don't currently work. Like there's a guide.
Oh, they broke all the mods?
Yeah, there's a guide on Steam that's like, this one's compatible, these are unknown, these ones they're the broken. Developers or the modders are working on them, but like, the modders don't get paid for that shit, so there's like some of them might not ever get fixed, which really sucks because then there's conflicts with your old saves. You might not be able to load your old save, but I mean it's interesting so far. It is very nice, and they have like the Northern Lights or the Aurora Borealis, and
it looks nice on that one snow map.
Yeah, well, there's 3 snow maps total, but I've only played the one so far, and the whole geothermal heating, you can do that stuff, district heating, and you have the road maintenance and the snow plows and stuff.
Do you find it adds like an actual like decent amount to the gameplay, or is it just kind of like another box like you have to check off when building a city now?
To the gameplay, not really. I mean, it's like for the snow, it's almost like the depot is like a dump. It basically is like
acts like trash, basically.
Yeah, it acts as trash. So it's like, all right, if you have a lot of icy roads and stuff, you just add another depot and increase the amount of snow plows.
So it just adds an extra chore on the checklist of city building, I guess.
Trams are kind of cool, but they're like buses. They're a little more limited because you have to have the special road with the tram tracks. But then once that's in, you just like make stops and stuff. And I mean, it's cool aesthetically. It's kind of adds a nice, cute little touch. But in terms of gameplay, there's very little extra other than dealing with the cold. And Yeah, and then there's some new assets and stuff. Like they have some winter-related parks. There's like a ski lodge and ice skating rink and different things of that nature. But it's kind of hard for me to justify $13 for it. And even if you don't get it, they had to update the game for the DLC, and it's an auto update. So so if other people are just like, no, I'm just gonna keep playing the old game,
It breaks the mods anyway.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck. So
Oh, that sucks.
so I mean I'm a little bitter about it, but it's like it's my only real option to get my city building fixed. So I'm just gonna weather
You're
the
a
storm.
city building addict.
Yes, I am. So
Before we move on, if I could just real quick say, chat corrected me. Apparently, the next character comes out in March, not summer. I'm not sure where I heard that then.
Okay, that's not that bad then. That's just next month.
Just got to add 10 more and I'll be in.
All right, yeah, understandable.
The snow thing for Skylines seems like I made the comparison last week to Crusader Kings 2.
Yeah.
Where they just keep coming out with DLC for it forever to keep it relevant. This is one of those ones where you get it in like a City Skylines definitive pack.
Yeah.
Of DLC in the summer sale or something. And then there's ones you want to get like right away. This is one of the ones where you're like Mongolian faces. Or like the heavy metal soundtrack pack, right? Like those.
Unless you're a Roomba. So what we're saying is Malf is a Roomba when it comes to City Skylines.
City Skylines.
You have to buy everything.
I guess so.
I don't know. I'm sorry for you.
You know, I don't know. I've been wanting to get back into the game, and it's funny. I was working some new mods and stuff into my save because I wanted to do some really cool stuff with my city, and then it just like dawned on me that the next day it was coming out, and I spent hours and hours trying to get these mods to work with each other, and then no. So.
Broke them.
But I don't know. I'm building the new city and stuff. There's one episode up on my YouTube if people want to check that out. So I mean it's okay, but they really didn't take in a lot of the feedback people have been giving.
Right.
They've been listening pretty well, like about that, and people were like, give us trams, and like they did that. So
something.
But yeah, there's still issues with the AI behavior and like the death wave and all that stuff. So,
oh yeah, like everybody dying all at once kind of thing.
You wave and they all die. It's like a
pretty much
Death Note kind of thing.
Yeah, you just go and they all die.
It's just like you'll be playing and then all of a sudden, like all the residents from the beginning, they all just like age at the same pace and they all die.
Yeah,
they all the same
time. They die of
Baby
natural
boomer
causes or
generation.
whatever. So apparently that hasn't been fixed and some other stuff. So it's more of like relying on mods to fix the core behavior, which is something I really don't like to have to rely on just on principle. But
well, yeah, I mean the big thing. I mean it's great that mods can fix things. I mean you look at a lot of games, Bethesda games in particular, but I get the downside is like they're broken easily. With with an update. So
I mean, the thing with the snowfall that kind of bums me out, even though I haven't played City Skylines much lately, is that in like a year, but it seems like a compromise that nobody wanted is like people want like weather and seasons. They don't want to be
winter
in a snow map 100% of the time. I hate to invoke like the realism argument, but what percentage of the world's cities are under snow 12 months of the year? Like
Alaska.
Alaska.
Exactly.
Well,
that's probably
not
even true either.
It's not like half-assed, but it's like, you know, you're doing like a school assignment and you're like you're doing a math problem and you're like, well, I can show my work, but I can't get the final answer that's actually correct. So I'm content to get like 6 out of 10 on this, or, 5 out of 10. It's like, it just seems like kind of that you're adding like a feature that people want, but in a way that nobody wanted.
It's like, and it made me think of Banished again, which I know, like, Ryan, you played that. I don't know if...
Yeah.
I played the hell out of that,
I did not play Banished.
And it's a great game in that the whole... I mean, it's hard from the beginning, but then you have to... And it's still hard throughout because the, winter approaches, and obviously you have to have enough...
prep for it.
Food and, like, warm clothing and all that stuff. So it's like the gameplay was kind of constantly changing and evolving. If they made it so there were actually seasons in this game, and again, I don't know the technical limitations and stuff like that, but I would be. It's a hard sell to tell me that they couldn't do that. They probably just take longer, but like that would actually make for a huge gameplay change, right? It's instead of just like putting in the snowplows and you're done kind of thing,
Right.
and just
It's
adding
snow
more
now,
as they go.
snow plows. All right.
It's like, okay, now spring and summer are here. There's no snow, so you have to manage like your budget more and like shut them down and focus on other aspects, and that would change the gameplay and give you a lot more to do constantly. After a while, it's like you kind of build your city, and it's like, all right, I've reached close to the asset limit, or my computer's starting to lag, so you kind of just have to leave it be. And
Right. I love Banish. Banish was great.
yeah,
Good
yeah.
game.
Yeah, I had fun with it.
But
Well,
anyways,
now we
that's-
know. I mean,
that's-
it kind of it sucks that it sounds like it turned out kind of how we predicted it, I guess, or how you predicted it was going to be, and it is what it is. So hopefully in the next expansion they address some of the other options or other issues, or maybe modders will tackle it and then it'll break in the next expansion. Who knows?
Frost.
I'll wait for City Skylines 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They'll have seasons in that probably.
Yeah, exactly.
friggin' better.
Well, now we can talk about Layers of Fear. So Nick and I have played it. Nick has beaten it. I'm a little more than halfway through. Ryan, I'm assuming, has not.
No, I probably won't, and like I feel bad about it because I should do my due diligence for the show, but it's very much not my genre of choice. So
Horror.
horror, first person, semi puzzling
It's,
narrative
uh,
adventure.
There's zero puzzles, basically.
There's like, here's a lock. Look
There's
at
a
that
half a
wall.
puzzle in it.
There are the numbers you need to put into the lock.
Yeah.
That's a puzzle, man.
That's not a puzzle. That's just like, they're like, we need you to interact in some way
It's-
other than
dude,
opening doors.
Firewatch had puzzles of just being like, where the heck is this trail? And sometimes I'd walk around.
That was
for like,
more puzzly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd walk around for like 3 minutes and be like, I can't find this
All
fucking
right.
trail.
Here's the
The
puzzles.
first puzzle
Where's
in the
the bear?
Witness is harder than everything in that game.
Yes. The puzzles and Layers of Fear are the exact difficulty of unlocking storage containers in Firewatch. You know the code.
Yes.
You just have to put
Alright.
it in.
Do you have to find the code in the environment?
Yeah, it takes a second.
You look up and
Yeah.
then you look down again.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It's like the
The puzzles are a non-factor of the game, I would say. They don't really contribute anything other than not being a door you open.
Right.
Alright.
That's really
They're just
their
trying to
only
give you
factor.
another way to interact with the environment in some way. So it's interesting. Before we talk about the story, I find something interesting about Layers of Fear in that
Do it.
the critically, like the websites and reviews are pretty negative on the game, but like,
Really, they were overwhelmingly positive prior to release.
well, as far as like I'm talking, well, Steam reviews and stuff and like users
Yeah.
love it.
Okay.
Critical,
critics.
yeah, critics are mediocre to don't like it. It's a
Yes.
really huge divide, which is interesting. And I mean, the arguments that I've read as far as like the reviews are concerned, it's like it's cliche. You're doing the same thing you do in a ton of horror games, and I think, and what the users are saying, it's like are basically they're saying that the story is good and it's presented in a clean fashion, unlike a lot of horror games nowadays,
Yeah.
where they kind of just like haphazardly throw you into a horror game and don't really like it's kind of bland, I guess. I think the one thing I'd say Layers of Fear has going for it is that it's beautiful. It's very pretty. And a lot of the effects, the melting painting and all that stuff is really gorgeous. And it's not really all that interactive. And the story, you can kind of, you pick up, I'm a little more than halfway through and I already know where the story's going, essentially, or is going to go. Nick, you have an interesting perspective in that you played the early access demo that you could buy, liked it a lot, then played the full release and were like, it's not as great as the early access demo. So
It's a really
explain
weird
that.
position to be in because it essentially puts me in the spot of trying to play a game blind twice, which you can't do. Granted, yes, things are changed, but I found that generally the way that things were put together in the early access version, since it was meant to be sort of like a, I don't even know what the right word is, like a show reel, like a sizzle reel, like here's all the best bits that we can show you in a fast fashion without taking too long to spread much out.
Early access was how long? The demo, because I never finished it. The demo part.
It was about 2.5 hours.
and the final
And the
game.
final version is about 4.5, 5.
Okay, continue. Sorry, just
So-
wanted to get that out there.
It's actually a very relevant thing to ask because I think my biggest complaint is that there was almost no relevant content added to the final version that wasn't in the prior version. They just sort of padded out what was there with extra hallways and like a few extra notes and some stuff that didn't really contribute much to the story and made it all a bit slower paced in general, which, you know, I think most people can agree in horror games, the pacing is paramount. It's one of the most effective ways of getting your interest. Now, I don't mean to sound like I'm being extremely negative here, because I actually think it's still one of the better horror games that's out there. Just, I think it's a strange move that it went backward in a way from where it was, which I thought was poised to be one of the best horror games I've ever played. And now it's like, you know, it was above average is kind of where I ended up landing on it. I definitely still recommend it. And if you haven't played the early access version, you probably won't suffer as much as I did from it.
Don't play. Even me, like, I played, I'd say probably half of the early access before I put it down. And going into it, you know, you see a lot of the same stuff, but there were parts in between. I was like, oh, I don't remember this. But none of it was really all that relevant, right? Or compelling or necessary. From what I played in the demo, it did what it did in the full game, but better, because like you said, it was more compact. It kind of just gave it to you at a pace that worked out really, really well.
They moved around a few of the key set pieces too, so now each like pseudo chapter of the game isn't in necessarily the same chronological order as it was in the early access version. And some of them were sort of taken apart in a way to make them more modular. There were a few elements that were sort of mishmashed together in the early access version that are now discrete as part of different chapters, and in a way that kind of takes away the ability for them to foreshadow more effectively. Not that it's all that big of a deal either, because a lot of the story that you get that's relevant is just from the form of reading notes all around, which is a thing that I've actually been kind of hard on in horror games before, because it's sort of trope number one when it comes to, you know, we're playing Slender Man, there's notes everywhere, look around, scary thing.
Yeah.
They don't rely on jump scares in this game, and they generally do a pretty good job of contextual storytelling, which makes me forgive them for the notes being everywhere. But I think that there could be even a bit more that could elaborate on that concept to keep it from just falling into that formulaic path. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's interesting because as far as like the jump scares are concerned, like I'm terrible with jump scares. They get me easily, like big time. But for the most part, the jump scares are pretty telegraphed in the game. Like you can kind of see where they're going to come from almost always. That doesn't bother me so much, but it's I don't know. It's weird because I like what they're trying to do with the game, and I'm enjoying it kind of quite a bit so far. But like you said, I think the pacing is paramount, and they break up the pacing in a way that exactly, in a way that I almost get a little bored. Like you said, you went through the game. We were talking a little bit off camera. You went through the game and you opened everything. And
I looked at almost every object in the game, opened every cabinet, every drawer, read every note I could find. And that's all you really get to do is open drawers, and it's the same doors over and over again in different places, sometimes with notes, sometimes without. It'll be a drawer, it'll be a cabinet, it'll be a bathroom dresser.
It's the same thing, and it's like the same wallpaper or whatever that's like, you know, copy-pasted from cabinet to cabinet.
Melf?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys like apples?
Yeah.
Well, I gotta know, how do you like them apples?
I have a real question about Layers of Fear. How does it compare to a game like Soma that is like a little bit more existential horror? At least what I garnered from it. I heard that Layers of Fear is a little bit more visceral, like in your face, I guess.
It feels like a hallucination that eventually ends literal.
Okay.
Yeah, the horror compared to the two, like, there wasn't... I'm trying to think. Soma had, like, very little to no jump scares. And it was more about, like you said, the existential kind of question being posed about humanity. Where Layers of Fear is very much, even where I am, it's not being, like, all high and mighty with its question. It's basically just kind of this...
There's like two underlying points. It's like what's going on with me and what's going on with my wife.
And they don't try and hide it too much. Like I'm halfway through the game and I already know where the story's going to go. So I don't think they compare in that way.
Well, I'm curious if you actually do after we get done with the podcast, but
okay. All right. Well, I'm interested to talk about it. I think what the game does well, and again, the reason I think a lot of the people who bought it like it is because the way it's presented, though the pacing is a little bit weird, is it's presented well.
It's very atmospheric. It really pulls you into the setting. and it takes you to places you wouldn't expect you could go in generally what's to be just a house for the whole game. Because that is what it is. You just walk through a house, although the house gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and it gets weirder and weirder.
And weirder and more macabre and more dark, and then it turns into kind of Silent Hill and gets really, really, really dark. And then you kind of come out the other end, and then the ride is over.
I guess like if you were
ends abruptly.
if you were expecting Soma to be Amnesia, this is the closest Amnesia you're gonna get this year.
Okay, I've got to work that logic puzzle.
I can't follow that.
If you're expecting Soma to be Amnesia,
and you didn't get because it wasn't, and you wanted an Amnesia, Layers of Fear is probably the closest thing you can get to Amnesia this year, like an Amnesia style horror.
I get it now. It's sort of like Amnesia 2 in a few ways.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think it's much better presented than Amnesia 2, though.
Well, there is no.
It held
Amnesia
my
2.
interest more.
Oh, you mean like Machine for Pigs?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yep.
There is no Amnesia 2.
There is no. Ignore Machine for Pigs. But I like it so far. I do wish the pacing. So my point asking you about opening all the things is that I get bored, so I just stop opening cabinets.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking for things. I'm like, this is interesting. All right, this is interesting. All right, I'm bored. I'm just gonna ignore.
You're costing
everything.
yourself story and possibly an ending.
Yes, and now I know that I'm possibly costing myself an ending, but I didn't know that before, and it's not interesting enough for me to keep opening things when the thrills kind of have slowed down and there's nothing going on.
You know, I kind of wonder, because it's a pretty natural path that you're taking through. They may have actually done that intentionally. Well, not all of it intentionally, but capitalized on an unintentional facet, which is that it gets boring to do the same thing, and eventually you stop. And then they reward you for doing the completionist run afterward to kind of get artificially an extra playthrough out of the game.
Which I won't do.
It could be a thing, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend just opening the stuff if you care. But you're not going to be that rewarded either way. The ending is not the focus. It's about the journey.
Yeah, I agree. Malf, do you think you'll play it? I know Ryan won't.
I mean, I might give it a go.
That's a no.
I've got the code for it. I just there's been some other stuff I've kind of prioritized
as far as
a little bit.
And like just full disclosure stuff. We did get this cool fucking like box of stuff that the developer sent us, which was great.
Probably one of the coolest press kits I've ever gotten, but it doesn't really affect my opinion of the game.
Yeah,
it's just a cool thing to get.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it so far. I definitely think I'll finish it. But it's interesting. I question why they decided to do that demo. If they
wanted people to get hyped for it,
or why the demo lasted that long.
Yeah, that would be a bigger problem.
Or do something like Stanley Parable did, where like the little could have kept like their own self-contained mini thing as a demo to give an idea of what the game was going to be like, because literally the demo is like basically the first 2 hours of the game.
They telegraphed 90% of the story, honestly.
Yes.
And what they did was pad out that 90% with 10% you didn't care about in the final version.
I agree. I would agree with that wholly.
I want to say, though, that they did approach the art angle, because there's a story about an artist that loses his mind. They approached the art angle of this very genuinely, and there was some really interesting art stuff going on in the game that I think there probably are deeper interpretations you could take away. I was starting to read into the paintings that were available in each part of each scene and seeing what that meant as far as the character's mind state. And if they did take it to that level, then that's amazing. And there's a whole nother interpretation that I want to get to that I just haven't done yet.
All I know is there's a bearded baby picture that's all over the place. The bearded baby's always
that's where he kind of jumps the shark, apparently, as an artist.
The bearded baby. It's really
very creepy. It's
Ryan, you're so funny.
Really well done. And the textures are so freaking high resolution, and everything is so crisp and good looking. Like, you'll just want to walk around the environment and look at everything, which is how they get away with it being somewhat monotonous. You enjoy opening all the stuff because you just want to look at everything.
Yep. Until you get bored because nothing's happening. Well, that's Layers of Fear, available now, $19.99 on Steam. You can check it out. I think I would recommend it,
despite all of the stuff I just said, and I think you'll probably still take a pretty good enjoyment away from it.
I agree. Check it out. It's good stuff.
Maybe I will.
Now we'll talk about the last thing. I'm actually really excited to talk about this. We were going to talk about it last week, but we didn't have the opportunity to because none of us had finished it. Or not all of us had finished it, rather. Not all of us had finished it. Is Firewatch, which all four of us finished. Spoiler warning, we are going to be talking spoilers.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to hear about the ending, if you don't want to know anything about Firewatch, walk away now. You can pick up I'd say a quick recommendation. I liked it. If you want to check it out, feel free. But we're going to talk about it and discuss what we all thought of the story, the ending. And I think the biggest thing is the ending. So Ryan, let's start with you, sir.
Sure. I mean, are we going to just give like a synopsis?
Yeah,
of
we can give it like the
roughly
story.
what happens? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, in Firewatch, you play as a man who is in the middle of a tumultuous relationship with his wife who has early onset dementia. As a result of this, she goes back to live with her parents overseas. He begins working at as a park ranger in the forest and the hills of Wyoming or Montana, somewhere in that.
Wyoming. Yeah.
Okay. So he's in Wyoming, and it's isolated and lonely. And when it starts out, you're doing some park rangery stuff where you're yelling at teenagers for like littering and drinking
Fireworks.
And being naked.
shooting fireworks,
Drinking
being
a
naked.
lot.
Well,
Being naked.
but it wasn't them necessarily. But anyway, and then that's like the first act, and the gameplay is pretty much exclusively told, or the story is pretty much exclusively told through a running dialogue that you have with your supervisor named Delilah, who is in her tower, but she can talk to you and see you occasionally. Anyway, in the second act, you start to unravel a mystery, and the mystery is like you're being observed by people and you don't know why, and
Feels
you
very
think
conspiratorial.
feels very conspiratorial, and
It's very sci-fi.
It gives you it teases you with like maybe there's some kind of science fiction stuff going on here, maybe there's like some government black ops or some X-Files stuff going on here, and then there's kind of a side story about like the previous dudes who were in the park or in the
prior Firewatch Ranger.
the prior
who had a son.
Firewatch, yeah. And then at the end, you find out that really the stuff in the second act is basically a red herring, and it's really a story about the family that used to be there and your relationship with Delilah, and it kind of ends in an anticlimactic fashion, I would say, with them basically being like, you remember all that stuff with the conspiracies in the middle and the government facility you found and all the weird documents of like observations? They just made it up. And
JK, not real.
yeah, it was like this guy just made it up. Actually, he just like his son died or he murdered him, and then he wanted to make it look like it was busier than it was, I guess.
Well, the big gestalt is you eventually end up in this cave and you find the son's body at the bottom of a rock slide, and you're not sure why he's there exactly, but the only other person that he was with was his father. Later on, you go on to find a cryptic message and a note and a collar and a rope, and it leads you up to his little den of where he's apparently been living in the woods ever since his son died, and he didn't want to return to society, and he didn't want to answer questions about why his son died, so he chose to just go into reclusiveness. And when people got too close to him, he didn't like that, and he started setting up situations to scare people away. So that's kind of the primary motivator for the way the story ends up turning, and you think it's going to be more about you, and ends up being more about them. But maybe it's still about you. That's what we're here to discuss, right?
Yeah. So as far as the ending is concerned, what are our thoughts on it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you feel indifferent about it?
I actually liked it. I kind of like how, it didn't, at least on the top surface of it, seem to be some big grand, like, explosions concluding, like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe, whatever. I kind of liked it. It seemed a little more mundane, and in the end, just like, oh shit, yeah, it's not some crazy conspiracy or whatever, just this lunatic, and I don't know, his life is still kind of in shambles and all that, and there's the question of how it continues on, and I like how they kind of let you interpret it a little bit as well. I don't know, I just thought it was actually kind of realistic in that way, and how it ended. Like,
It ended up being a human story instead of something that was elevated to another level when it didn't necessarily need to be.
yeah.
My opinion was a bit dissonant. I was when I finished it, I was very kind of frustrated and a bit let down. But I also recognized that there was probably a lot of facets of it that I hadn't considered yet. And I went on to think about it for a while after that, and I came to a conclusion that I think I'm mostly satisfied with, that we can talk about in a minute. But I'm curious to hear if you guys have your own interpretations that helped you get through what you thought to be the ending or not, or what. What do you think, Mathis?
As far as the ending is concerned, I actually am with Malf. I liked it. It didn't sound like the way mine ended. It didn't feel like my character's life was in shambles, because I was very much like, every time I had the opportunity to say something about my wife, I was like, I shouldn't be here. I should go see her. And at the end, it was like, you know, Delilah was like, you should go see her, and he was like, yeah, I should go see her. My complaint, I guess, isn't necessarily that the ending was bad. It's that, where did this guy get all of this sci-fi like gear to set up this camp?
The camp was okay. Ryan asked me the same question. There was an actual government survey happening, and he took a bunch of stuff from it and set it up because he could hear your walkie-talkie. He set it up. He knew you were coming, and he had those reports that he had falsified and put them there.
And Delilah was never informed that camp was there.
She seemed very not sure about that area in general, because remember when Tippity Lake came up in the first place, she's like, I don't even know where that is.
That's true. Which I feel is
super weird, because she's been there for years.
Yeah,
right?
that's why I was like, she should know about this. She's been here and been doing this job forever.
That was my single biggest kind of complaint throughout, was like, you're her little, like,
peon.
You're just like, go do this, go do that. And especially when it got to the point where, like, there was, this guy who was obviously like listening and all this shit, and Henry's like, I gotta get to the bottom of this. She's like, yeah, please go, like, do that and all this shit. And she's up there drinking her tequila and whatever. That pissed me off. But I mean, that's like,
it was almost like the developers like, we can't answer this question for you right now. We can't talk about it. So she doesn't know why. I don't know. She's drunk.
Yeah, but I mean, that was more like pissed off, not about like the game. Oh, like, that's bad. I didn't like that about the game. It just made me dislike her.
Yeah,
which is reasonable, considering she's kind of a perpetual liar through the whole game, which you don't find out until the very end.
Yeah, so
true.
I just wanted to smack her. I wanted, like, that's why I told her to wait. I was like, I'm gonna suplex her.
She wanted to bang you the whole time without even really knowing what you looked like. She drew
you out of the helicopter, watch you tumble down to the fire below. I think a lot of the general consensus that I see, not general, but a lot of people I see complaining are like, the ending ruined the game for me. Like, I hate the ending, liked the game, it made me dislike the game. For me personally, I still think Firewatch was worth playing, and on a broader level worth the asking price. But I actually really dislike the ending. And the reason I dislike it is because it's sort of, for me, does exactly the same thing that Gone Home does, but it's stretched out. Gone Home is like, well, we're gonna tell you a story about love knows no bounds, but we're not gonna let you just know that. We're gonna trick you into thinking it's about like a ghost, and then when the emotional part hits, it's gonna be like you snuck it in. It was like a stealth bomber or something.
Right.
This was like the same. So on principle, I don't have a problem with it. But the most interesting part of the game by far was, for me at least, that middle act where I was like, the government's observing us. It's some kind of like social experiment or aliens from another dimension or something like that. And in a way that would have been like a cheap ending, but it was also like so much more interesting than just, well, there's this dude and his son that you didn't even really think about for 90% or 80% of the game.
Right. They downplayed it so hard too.
Yeah.
Exactly. But to try to sneak it in, I guess.
Yeah.
I think at least, which is fine. And there's value in telling like a human story. But I was kind of like, well, the part of the game that I liked the most, basically with the ending, was made completely irrelevant. Like there wasn't really anything necessary about that section from a narrative standpoint, except that
throw you off.
The misdirect.
Exactly. It throws you off the trail and allows them to kind of bury the actual what's actually happening, which there's no way you could have seen coming. And I'm not frustrated that, like, I'm not one of those people who watches a movie and like tries to spot the twist, and if I don't spot the twist, I feel tricked or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, my favorite part of the game is also completely in a director's cut or like a SparkNotes version of it. It doesn't have to exist. So
it really doesn't matter at all.
I would have loved it if it just went completely off, and then it turned out that it was some kind of like government conspiracy or something like that, even though it would have been way more of like a Hollywood story.
And And to mirror some of your thoughts, this is another thing that I was really very frustrated with, was the just literal amount of red herrings that they felt it was necessary to throw your way. I mean, early in the game, there's a moment where Delilah is on the radio with someone that you don't know who they are, and you overhear her talking.
Yeah, that's right.
And you go, what's going on here? And I pressed her for it. I was like, I'm interrupting you. Hey, hi, I'm here. Can you hear me? And she doesn't hear you. And then you keep going with it, and she never acknowledges that or gives you a solid answer about who she was talking to, which is to make you not trust her early in the game. And it's a very transparent play in writing for you to not trust her.
And there's
that's as far as that goes. What?
Once you know what happens at the end, you like look back and you're like, oh, that existed for this reason, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. And there were several others. I mean, there were the two girls you were chasing around. We were not really sure.
Oh yeah, they could have been dead or murdered or whatever. Yeah.
Out of the blue, they just drop it on you. Oh, the girls are fine, and don't ask any questions about it. Moving on. And that's the last you hear about the girls.
Yeah.
There's a bear that's apparently terrorizing people, and you see evidence of it all around, and you never encounter the bear. You never see anything else that matters. It's just there, and then you're gone.
For a while, I was expecting the game to be like, you're the one with, the sickness of early onset dementia. And I'll be like, okay, cool, all right, because like all this, it's crazy. Science fiction stuff's going on, and all this crazy nonsense is happening, and it turns out like Delilah is like your interpretation of your wife taking care of you, and all this other stuff. But like. At the end, you're like, maybe I have dementia. And she's like, that makes no sense. You definitely don't.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that would have been cool if you like Delilah was your mind's way of interpreting it. And another little way they kind of like threw a hint that might maybe be the case is that time you get up in the middle of the night because you hear Delilah on the radio, and then you start talking to her and she turns into your wife. And I'm like, oh, is this what's happening?
I think they did that for the same reason. I think it was transparently to misdirect you, so you start coming up with ideas about what could be the twist here.
And then she turns into a bear, and then she turns into Ned, and then she turns into the fire.
And she throws you down into a hole.
But yeah, it felt like there was I didn't even think like how many misdirections were thrown in there outside of the big one that was like the obvious thing.
Well, the biggest one is the fact that there's nonstop what appears to be paths through the game that are artificial. And that really drove me a little nuts.
Yeah.
I went at the very end and I tested a few different dialogue options, and you get 2 or 3 other lines of dialogue, but it doesn't change anything meaningful. And it gives you this totally different appearance of what you think the game is about. At the beginning, you think, well, this could be like there's 5 or 6 different paths through this, depending on what I say. It might change the way the game works. No, they're just leveraging writing to try and give the appearance of a deeper core gameplay experience. Yeah. It's not there.
Oh, you know what would have been a great ending to the game? You're going back, you're like, wait, Delilah, I'm going up into the Firewatch tower. And then you go up, and she's still there, but she's your wife.
Naked.
She's your wife. And she's naked, but she was testing you. She's like, I just wanted to make sure you truly loved me. And then you start to hear the dulcet tones of the plain white tees, Hey there, Delilah, you've been through, and you just kiss. And then, like, the fire forms like a heart of smoke that goes into the air. And then...
Of course.
That's beautiful.
Firewatch.
Great.
And then, it's the song, This Heart's on Fire.
This girl is on fire!
For me, the biggest kicker was, like, it's fairly linear, and especially, like, in the environment, so many invisible walls and shit. At the moment when you're going to look for the bear... but you've got like the fishing rod at first.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yes, I'm gonna get the fish.
Some gameplay.
Yeah, you get to interact with the environment, and then you put it away, and it never comes back.
Even if I don't get to, like catch a fish or whatever, like I would have just. I feel like they spent a lot of time making this extremely beautiful game, and having a few moments where I could have just sat down, fish for 5 minutes, fish for 5 hours if I wanted, and then like go back onto the linear, that would have been nice. Because it's a very beautiful game, and
I agree.
But
that fishing pole lasted like 10 seconds.
Yeah, it was barely even a thing. I tried to actually roleplay a specific type of character when I wasn't aware that the choices were meaningless, and I tried to resist all of Delilah's temptations.
That's what I did.
And I found at one point I had taken off my wedding ring without doing it intentionally, so I put it back on.
Yeah.
So I was sending this message to the game developers that says, I'm being a good guy here, so I expect a reward when I get to the end that says, you played the straight and narrow road and you care about your wife despite all this mess you've gone through. The game forces you down that position of being the bad guy no matter what you try to do, And that might be a strength for the narrative, or it might be a negative. I haven't decided, but I'm curious what you guys think about that.
Here's what would have been sweet, is if you make all the good light side choices, it cures your wife's dementia. Okay, I'm being facetious. Here's my problem with Firewatch criticism in both regards. I really hate the idea that it's not a game, so I don't like it, which is fine, you know, if you're into that, like, or if I guess I should say, if you're not into walking simulators at all, like, that's fine as long as you know what that other people are into it, right? Like, that $4 or 4 hours for $20 is pretty much par for the course, maybe even a little bit more than average for like the walking sims that we get these days. But I also hate that there are people who like the game, and then if you say, well, I like the game, but I have problems with the story, they're like, yo, you just don't get it. Like,
yeah,
I think we all get, they were trying to tell a human story, you know, with kind of themes of running away from responsibility and isolation and stuff like that. This Firewatch to me is like a movie that is like a 5 or 6 out of 10, but is interesting to talk about. Like, it's not a 5 or 6 out of 10 where you're like, it's, you know, Fantastic Four or, you know, G.I. Joe or something like that. It's like Synecdoche, New York or something like that, where you're like, this is an interesting movie that doesn't really hit me, but you know, it's got some cool stuff going on.
I've been to Schenectady.
Have you?
Yeah, the GE's renewable headquarters is there.
I knew that.
I went there. It was cool. We got free food.
I thought you said you got disconnected. I was very
I thought that as well.
I was like, what? Immediately looked at my frames.
My interpretation of the ending is thus. The game is about you running away from your problems. Yeah, we can all agree that's not up for interpretation, really. You find your way through this long story where you think you've bonded with this person, and you expect that at the end there will be some sort of return on that bonding experience. However that goes, Fox seems to have ideas about that. And then the ultimate payoff is one of disappointment intentionally. It's a theme of emptiness. You're getting the return that the bond you had with your wife is now gone. The bond you tried to form with Delilah is now gone. She was never essentially a real person to you, the way that your former life is now not real. There's a continuing metaphor that you can take from the exposition happening between your wife, apply that to you and Delilah, and I think it just sort of maps forward. It purposely doesn't give you an ending in the way that we would expect, because that's the situation life's put you in. There is no ending between you and your wife. Your wife is gone, even though she's still here. So it's a really sad and fragmented ending, but it is an ending nonetheless. And that narrative, once I started to see that perspective, in which I had to take sort of a literature-based kind of way of looking at it to get to that, made me feel a little bit more satisfied about what I thought was a non-ending. Does that resonate to anyone?
Conceptually, I do think it's cool that in an industry that is like 98%, you go out hunting and then you come back and your wife has been killed by the enemy that will eventually be your final boss, and then like your story arc of just getting to that guy and then murdering him. I think conceptually it's really sweet that a game like Firewatch can exist, and it just tells like a human story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. A story that doesn't have like a fireworks opening or ending. It's just
it literally has a fireworks opening though.
There is in the first act there are some fireworks.
Yeah.
But it ends in progress, right? Like, this person's life is not over, and there hasn't really been a serious resolution in the issues that kickstarted the events of the game. That's kind of like a high-level story for a video game to tell. Mm-hmm. So I do agree with that. On a level, I do like that it exists.
And if that is the correct, and I'm not saying it is, but for me anyway, if that is the correct interpretation that I'm going to go with, it does a disservice to the rest of the game that's the strength of the writing, and we use so many false narrative moments to get to that point, right? Back that up with less red herrings. We don't need those.
Right.
Yeah.
It spoils the ending for me then. Yeah. You can't have both.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it kind of reminded me of like Damon Lindelof writing, like Lost or Prometheus or something, where they raise all these questions in like the start and the middle of it, and then at the end they're like, nah, it's a monster. You know, they're like, nah, they were dead the whole time.
You
It's like,
overthought it, you dumbo.
yeah, they're like, what does it mean to be human? And then at the end, they're like, the whole
who
government
cares?
conspiracy stuff that you got paranoid about. It was just like, you were just overthinking it. Okay.
You were
Prometheus
just
was
smoking
just
too much.
Garbage even before. It was just like the characters were
true.
written so poorly. Like, I'm in this mysterious cavern. I see this giant like worm thingy coming out of the water. Let me just take off my helmet. You know, like against protocol that we spent like 5 years in cryogenic sleep getting here. I'll just
Yep.
it's bad. Whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah, in spite of all that criticism, I still think it was a solid game. I think it was just fun to have that discussion. I think you probably are all on the same page, yeah?
I mean, if you're into that style of game, I'd still say it's worth playing. It is a beautiful game. The animations are amazing. The voice acting is phenomenal. Like, it's really good.
Yeah,
It's just the red herring. There was like 7 too many red herrings, and one of them was just too intense. But
If you don't like walking sims, don't buy it. Like that's
Right,
the thing that's
yeah.
been frustrating me.
Yeah.
Is people being like, well, like there's no gameplay in it. Why did I pay $20 for this? I'm like, there's reviews and Steam reviews, and you know, you can read like the Twitter timeline of the developers, watch gameplay on YouTube. People are still like, oh, Campo Santo tricked me into buying this. You know, and like, there's so much information out there.
how do they
This is
trick
like-
people to buying it?
it's
How do I
like
trick people to
each-
watch my videos?
You put a title like what the fuck?
It worked though.
Yeah, I saw.
Seriously though, that game is what the fuck. I don't understand what's going on in that game.
I just wish like
Gangbang.
I wish people knew like Firewatch is not a game
Don't
for everyone.
even say it.
Yeah, no, there's no reason to not know what you're getting into with Firewatch. It's fucking everywhere. And if you don't know what it is, you can YouTube it, and there's like a million different videos of the game. You should know what you're
It's
getting
like
into.
really disingenuous to try to attribute malice to them for writing the story the way they did. They just
agree
wrote
with
the
that.
story
Yeah.
the way they did. That's
Right,
the
that
end of
was
it.
not them trying to fuck over. Like, all right, we're gonna get everybody pissed off.
How is that a better strategy in the long term? Just write a different story if you're trying to fuck people over.
Yeah.
I don't
They
get
told
it.
they told the story they wanted to tell. And for a lot of people it's actually like hit pretty well. And that's fine. You know, that doesn't make you stupider or smarter than any of us. It's just the different different impressions of it.
Even if I didn't like the game on the whole, which is not true, I still would have just enjoyed the fact that we had this conversation.
Also
That's what
true.
this is all about, right?
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Give me another like 5 out of 10 Firewatch over like I don't know,
Assassin's
like-
Creed.
like another 8 out of
Yeah.
10 Assassin's Creed or something like that. At least it's interesting.
10 more games that are 100 hours long that have nothing interesting to talk
That
about
are
at all.
filled with like nonsense. And
Not even to
boring.
say that Firewatch is a better game than those, but for every one Firewatch, there's like 12 in the other category. So it's still novel that there are like mature games like this. Mature in this way, I guess.
And I hope it did well for them. I'd like to see, like you said, more games like this.
It has like 5,000 or 6,000 Steam reviews. So
That's good.
you know, if you factor
good
like the
start.
percentage of people who are going to write reviews at all, then you know, I think it's doing very well.
It's a really interesting pairing of games to put together. Layers of Fear and Firewatch, both things that we had sort of middling opinions of, yet also recommend.
But they try to
didn't
do
love.
different things. Yeah, like it's interesting. I think they try to do something that a lot of games don't do anymore and try and tell maybe like a more adult story or whatever. It's
Life's
good.
in the gray areas, man. It's not all 10 out of 10.
Exactly.
It's not all 0 out of 0s. I love the discussion of it.
Don't slap numbers on it, I guess. Just you know, it's good stuff. Firewatch, you can get it now on Steam, $19.99. Check it out if you're into walking simulators or whatever you want to call it. It's good. And if you're not sure, there's a million different reviews and videos you can go check out. And that'll wrap up all of our main topics to discuss today. So that means it's time for everybody's favorite segment. I was going to say section, but no, it's segment. It's Ask Roundtable. Today's question comes from Nick. Nick asks...
Hi.
Hey, what's up, Nick? Nick, I forgot you sent this question, so hopefully you have the answer. Hey, guys, just wanted to say thanks for making great content. This question is for all of you. Are there any game mechanics, durability, crafting, stealth, etc., that strongly influence your opinion on a game? Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.
No problem. We'll start. Nick, it was your question, so you can answer first. Is there any mechanic that'll strongly influence your opinion? Like, the game could be great, but it has one particular mechanic in it, and it automatically makes you want to hate it or love it.
Can I pass and come back to that if anybody has an immediate reaction?
Sure.
Because I actually got this one blind. I didn't hear this ahead of time.
Oh, okay. Ryan, how about you?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Okay,
Here we
so
go.
I mean, I've already said like I hate complicated crafting.
Yep.
And like ridiculous like gathering and loot systems that give you like 99% of the time they give you shit you just never look at again, and then eventually sell for peanuts, and 1% of the time they give you something good. But I think you can even get like you can extract it a little further, abstract it like one level up. I am a sucker for minimalism, or what I consider like elegance in a game's mechanics, and I'm probably a little bit too dismissive of games that have like maximal mechanics. Games that are survival, crafting, story, gunplay, but also they have a melee system, and like whenever a game gets like way too far like out in scope like that, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it. But when a game is like a 2-button game, or even like a 1-button like infinite runner or something like that, I can get into it way easier, and to an extent I probably have a better perception than the average person of games that are minimalistic, and probably a little bit of a worse perception of games that are maximalistic.
I mean, chat's saying though, but you love like XCOM 2 and Dota 2, and those are pretty maximalistic.
They are, and in a way, that's something that I had to get over. Like,
yeah, to push through
iterative though. They're iterative. They build on themselves.
It's
like
true.
I do.
That's true.
And it took me until my most recent Enemy Within campaign to actually care about the strategy layer. Like, in the...
Because you knew the comments would tear you apart.
Basically, and then they just taught me in the comments. They're like, this is what you should rush down, basically. So, like, when I played, like, the tactical layer, I really like that. Like, if somebody made a game that was basically just the tactical layer of that, I think it would be easier for me to get into, not to say that it would be a better game. I think that's why I liked... like Massive Chalice as much as I did, is that there was like some breeding, kind of like, you know, choose your own adventure stuff at the top, but mostly...
Well, who doesn't love breeding, man? Come on.
It's true.
So, like, that, yeah, that's like... XCOM, admittedly, is kind of it's a counter to the rule, the exception to the rule, as is stuff like EU4 and CK2, but as you know, when I play those games, I'm also not getting down into the spreadsheet level of like...
You're zoom in, zoom out.
Exactly. I look at the big picture of things and that. But yeah, I mean, Fallout 4 was the example I was thinking of in my head, where I was like, I basically don't care about like 80% of this.
Yeah. Makes sense. Malf, you got one?
I'm still thinking. Go to Nick.
Yeah, I could try. I actually kind of follow along with a lot of what Ryan said as far as the maximalism thing. The one thing I would add to it, if I was to add to it, and this is really a petty thing, honestly, but if there's just a ton of reading, it just drives me away from games.
I'm with you.
What is it? Pillars of Exile and Sunless Sea.
Oh,
Pillars of Eternity.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I agree with
I
both
guess
of
I
those,
should lie
actually.
then. I'll say, yeah, reading drives me away, but it doesn't. Like, I guess the world has to be interesting enough for me. Like,
I feel like you got to sell me on the game content before you expect me to then spend the time reading about the game content that you haven't made. If that makes sense, which that's a super like rude thing to say in a way, because it just invalidates that the writing could be meaningful. And I don't even mean that. It's just it's my own personal gripe. And it's not that I'm against reading by any means. I'm absolutely for it. It's just for some reason it doesn't strike me as a thing that complements gameplay all the time when it comes in massive chunks like that. If there's games that involve you to bring a ton of outside knowledge, things like EU4, I need an interpreter to feel that they could be satisfying. It's in a way, when I see those experiences, it reinforces how much I don't know about the real world or things like that. So that actually, it's like it has a negative effect on me personally, which is not how I like feeling emotionally when I'm playing a game. But again,
like
it's
that,
a very personal gripe.
Games like EU4 have a fucking shit tutorial though.
Yeah.
They don't teach you the game at all, and that's the problem on the developer. I guess for me, I like games with a ton of different like I like maximalist games, even if I'm bad at a lot of them. But I guess because I've burned out on them is like things that have like survival elements where I'm going out and gathering and worrying about my hunger and my thirst and crafting and stuff.
Yeah.
I get bored so fast now. Like, it could be a great game or a really good version of that game, but because I'm repeating tasks that I've done in 100 other games, I write it off most of the time. I just don't
It's like
give a
trope
shit.
compilations, right? It's like they've taken a bunch of things from other things and added as many of those other things on top of them just to say, we have the most tropes, so our game is the best.
Yeah, exactly. And it just, it fucking, it gets me so, because I've played, you name it, I've played it as far as survival games are concerned. So when I go into even a great game like The Long Dark, I think The Long Dark is one of the best survival games that are out there right now. Yeah. I have a hard time, like, being interested for more than an hour before I'm just like, I don't give a shit. Yeah. I just don't give a shit because it does that. It's like, well, you have to worry about your body temperature and your thirst and your hunger and like twisting an ankle and wounds and wildlife and food and all this other stuff. And it does all of it really well and in a way that's just, explained really well. And it's fun, but because I've played so many, I just can't give that game the time of the day that it probably deserves because it's just, I have just too many of them out there.
I would agree with that. I think that The Long Dark is, I mean, not everyone will share this perception. I think it's a victim of its genre. Because I'm like you, even though I haven't played nearly as much survival stuff, I just get to the point where I'm like, how many different ways can I find food and, you know, sleep and avoid, like, mobs and, like, I mean, I guess if you distill it down, that's what a lot of games are. Like, how many times can I jump over platforms? You know, how many times can I shoot something in the head or to swing my sword? But it's like, it seems like it's a gameplay mechanic that has just been like the dominant force for so many games in the last like 3 or 4 years.
Well, I think like the reason that is like why it's become boring is because initially when survival games came out, it was a novelty to be so overwhelmed and stressed out about worrying about so many little things. Yeah. Right? Not a lot of games were like, now you have to worry about your health, your hunger, your thirst, your wounds, infections, this, that, and the other. Yeah. But then once you push past that boundary, once you push past that barrier and you've learned how to take care of those things, it's no longer like an overwhelming stress kind of immersive experience. It is now a chore. Yeah. Because you have broken it down to the point where you're like, okay, on this day, I need to go do X, Y, and Z because the other parts of my character are taken care of. And then you start going back and forth, and you're not weighed down by the worries so much as you're just like weighed down by the chores that you now have to accomplish. It becomes from immersive to boring.
And you compared it to like jumping over platforms, but I would beg to differ. I mean, it becomes background noise. That's the press of one button. There's no tasks to that. You're so used to doing that in nearly everything that you don't even think about traversal anymore most of the time, unless you're just new to gaming in general, which I know that happens. But when it comes to making lists of, I need to collect 55 of these nuts, I got to get 3 branches, I got to get a turtle shell, I got to go get computer chips, and then we got to put this all together. Like, that stuff just feels really artificial to pad out time. Mm-hmm. But it's a testament, I think, to just how strong that Minecraft planted the seed in all of us that we just want to see this gameplay slightly tweaked to our own personal vision and then unleash that, and maybe we'll spark the next wildfire. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, people are saying, like, things can go, it's like, you can have everything kind of so planned out in survival games that it become, like, you can still get fucked. I would disagree because it's not like a real survival situation. Once you have the game broken down into its core components, it takes a lot to fuck it up. Once you have it down like, pat, you're fine.
Like the moment-to-moment gameplay, I just find like largely disinteresting. In the Long Dark,
once the worry goes away, it gets boring. The worry is what keeps me excited. Like, oh god, I could die at any minute. But once you figure it out, the worry is gone.
Maybe I'm just like completely blind to it. But when I play something like The Long Dark, I'm like, I guess I'm gonna die now, and I'll just like I'll start again. Like for me, I play that game mechanically. It seems strong to me, but I don't have the kind of like palette for survival games to know. But I play it because it looks beautiful, and I'm like, this is a really cool environment to spend time in. Mm-hmm. And basically it's just gorgeous. But I've really, and this is needlessly reductive, but whenever I see a survival game that doesn't do something like strikingly different, I'm like, this might as well be a palette swap. Like even when we're playing The Forest, I'm like, The Forest is fun. It's like a high-res Minecraft, and it's kind of silly. Like
it's super silly.
It has like a serious tone, but it doesn't quite hit right. So
it's like the limitations of the engine are everywhere, and you see them in everything.
It looks like a Unity game.
It looks pretty good.
No, it does look good. What I liked about The Forest, what I enjoyed was like the active like chopping down a tree and watching the tree fall over, as opposed to like hitting a tree until it just gives you resources, or like in The Long Dark where you click scavenge for wood, and then it just gives you wood. But like you said, the seriousness of the forest hits in a really weird, like, goofy way.
I think we've gotten a bit numb to resource collection in general, because at first it was just, the idea was there's all these emergent gameplay concepts that are happening. You're creating a story about your character, and you walked over here and you did that thing, and then you've done that thing so many times in so many games that there's no uniqueness or really anything to add on to that experience anymore. It's just background noise. So once you've done that in so many games, what's left of the game other than background noise, which makes the whole thing fade away?
Yep. How you doing over there, Malf?
I was thinking on what my thing, my answer, and to me, it's probably just got to be the general intuitiveness of, you know, the HUD and how you're supposed to play the game. You know, I don't like being too confused about mechanics on how I'm supposed to do something. Like for Fallout 4, for instance, with the crafting and stuff like that was a big issue I had. Especially for some of the missions, they're like, okay, now like make 4 cannons and shit, and I was just like, okay. And then they're like, all right, now assign somebody to do it, and I just had no idea. I actually had to go and watch a couple videos of somebody else doing it, because it just wasn't very like out there as to how you do it. So for me, it's just like, I like it when, you know, they put the mechanics in, they've got their story and all that stuff, but it shouldn't be a job to like read a freaking manual on how I'm actually supposed to go about.
I feel like some games freaking wear it like a badge of honor, though. Like the more convoluted the systems are, the more dedicated they feel their community is, which is like, you should be proud of yourself. You persevered.
There's a new survival game coming out.
Whoa, really?
That fuck, what is the name of it? Let me find the name of it real quick. That is like the big thing, is the way they're marketing it and like how super ultra realistic it's supposed to be. It's called Escape from Tarkov. Let me see.
Yeah.
All right. And let's see, it's escapefromtarkov.com. Beautiful game. It's on the CryEngine. Looks great. It's supposed to be like a what is that game called? Like Shadows of Chernobyl or whatever.
Stalker.
Metro.
Stalker.
Yes.
So the first line, the first line of this, of like what they describe it as, is Escape from Tarkov is a hardcore and realistic online first-person action RPG / simulator with MMO features and story-driven walkthrough.
Well, like Escape from Karnov.
That is the first line that they describe this game as, is just like, we're all the genres, we're every genre of all time. And like, they do things like just grabbing loot off of like the ground in this survival game sim takes time. Like your arm has to go out, pick it up, come back. Like that kind of like immersiveness or realism is what they're trying to do with this game. I'll copy paste like the line.
When it comes out, though, it's not going to be an arm. It's going to be a progress bar, and you're going to have to stand still and wait.
Yep, that exactly. Well, like, it's like, oh my god, realism. He has to reach out and grab things, but really you just like click, and I'm shot dead. Okay, well, we're starting over. And you have to worry about like weight and like breaking your like limbs and all this other stuff.
I feel like this is one of those games that is just, I have to basically say, I'm glad it exists. Because for some people, like, I was reading the comments on the like gameplay preview video I saw. People were like, "This is too good to be true," which might be another aspect of it altogether. But for some people, this is like the idea of games, is like their ideal. Sorry, not idea. It's like, this is the pinnacle of gaming if they can actually make this, and it's like got all these elements. Like whenever you hear people say like, "I've got a dream idea for a game," it's you know,
it's all
the
of these
best
things.
Survival game plus the best RPG plus the best first person shooter, and I have to accept this is not for me at all. This, if it turns out well, that's awesome. I mean, why would I say I wouldn't play a good game? But my ideal game is not this at all. And like watching it, I'm like, this looks exhausting. There's just so much going on. I'm like, I would rather play like, at the risk of making myself sound like a casual, I'd rather play like a little Threes or something like that. A game that does like one thing really, really satisfyingly. but there's a place for both of it. And like the message I guess I want to say is that like, you know, different games can be for different people, and most games are not for everybody. I guess that's what bothers me, is that games for everybody tend to be games that nobody loves, at least. Yeah.
You know, it drives me nuts, though, when games like that come out that are conceptually nearly perfect for one very niche group of people, because they will defend that concept to the death, no matter how bad the game is. And they will criticize everyone that criticizes it for saying how stupid they are. It ruins all, like, sense of objectivity there. I don't know what that is.
From covering the Dead Linger for so many times during early access.
I don't want to talk to you about that.
There are some people for whom like that game, like the writing's on the wall. Like, I mean, it's canceled now, and I don't mean any ill will towards the developers at all. But you were playing it; it's clearly broken, and then people were like, "Stop picking on the developers."
Yes, yes. It's my
broken.
God, it drove me nuts.
It's like, and people were like, "This guy's being a dick." Like, no, really?
No, just saying it's broken because it's broken. But that's a good example of like a game that promised the world like their dream game of like, this is gonna be like this and this and this and this, and we're gonna blow zombie games out of the water, and it was a fucking disaster. What's up?
It's like in the movie Crossroads with Ralph Macchio.
Not the one with Britney Spears.
No, the 1986 Crossroads.
And it's not the real Crossroads to me unless that's Britney Spears.
He's at Juilliard, and he's playing classical guitar, but he's also got a thing for the blues. He's a blues man. And basically his instructor was like, you know, you're pretty talented, but don't serve two masters. It's like, pick one path and friggin', you know, go with it. Which, in the end, he kind of, like, makes a hybrid of the two, whatever. But, like, you know, I think the same thing could be said of games. Like, you're trying to do too many things, and like Ryan said, it's like a game that appeals to such a broad set of people that it doesn't ultimately appeal to many people, because it's like you're sacrificing the quality of this system or this component just to add this one in, and you know, they all just kind of end up being mediocre at best.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yep. Exactly. Well, thank you for the
dream
question.
game.
Oh, what's your question?
All
right, that's fine.
I want Minecraft.
Oh, here we go.
Yogscast.
Oh. Wait, wasn't there gonna be a game like that? No, I know. I was going in it. All right. How about Yog Ventures?
It's like Adventures and Yogscast, the two things. All right, you can go on. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much for the question, Nick. Not you, Nick, but other Nick. If you have questions for us, you can send us questions over at roundtableyt@gmail.com. We answer a question every week, and maybe if your question's not shit, we'll answer it next week for you.
Go send us questions. We need questions.
Yeah, we're low on questions.
Don't send us dumb questions. We'll just
delete them.
Look at them.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Wasting everybody's time.
Yeah, mostly yours, though. So, now that's over.
Mathis,
well, yeah, but that's fine. We don't give a shit about, Bear still picks out the questions. So, anyway, now it's time for everybody's favorite section. After everybody's favorite section, it's Nick's Weird Games.
It certainly is. Am I just going to go get the game today?
No, Ryan's got to keep singing. And Malf is only here for a couple more weeks, so he's got to keep picking out the song.
Oh, shit. Let's,
I mean, you're looking at, like, a bookcase.
I've got some vinyl records up there.
All right.
Okay, let's go with some Queens of the Stone Age.
Well, it's got to be No One Knows.
Okay, well, there you go.
There you go. All right.
No One Knows then.
Done deal. There. Let's do it.
Okay. Nick's got some very weird games. Atlas and Sony. These and oh wait. No one knows. Okay, you're gonna set up your smoke detector.
It's way over there, don't worry.
It came out in Korea 12 years ago. To fanfare, no. This is like...
Not everyone can be a smash hit, Ryan. Not everyone can be a smash hit.
The crux of the song is that Nick's got some weird games. Something, no one knows.
All right, it works good. All right, let's hide our chat.
A hit.
You gave it a shot. Not everyone can be a success, Ryan, and we appreciate your effort.
Wow, okay.
All right.
It was a smashing success.
Smashing success. All right, chat is hidden. Let's go. We couldn't get it last week. We didn't get
Yes, we
it.
did. We got No One Lives Forever.
Oh yeah, you got
Yeah,
it. I did.
you
not
had no
get it.
problem.
All right,
I guarantee you will not get this one though.
Oh, ooh, all right. Danganronpa.
All right. We almost
Oh,
close.
Jesus.
No, it's not. We've got a PS2 game again today.
Okay.
Devil Dice
Probably
Survivor.
not too surprised. What is it?
Devil Dice Survivor.
Devil Dice Survivor.
Outlive, Outlast,
that
Outlove.
Devil Dice. That's a real thing, right?
Devil Dice, Jersey Devil.
Hmm.
Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. Tour.
I heard there might be another Crash Bandicoot eventually.
Yeah,
sure
you're
it
about to
will.
hold it up.
I wish. All right, so we've got a PS2 game, which was developed by Arika Chunsoft Matrix Software. I don't even know what to make of that, honestly. And was published in North America by Namco. There's a name you
Okay,
probably
all
are
right.
more familiar with. Released October 27, 2004. It's a role-playing video game, single player only.
Okay.
So that eliminates couple.
I mean, yeah, it narrows it down a little
Adds
bit.
in about 100 more.
Dark Souls.
No, this didn't come out on PS2.
Dark Souls 2.
It's rated E for everyone. Fantasy violence, mild language.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to read a bit from the back. A masked sorceress has kidnapped
Now,
guild...
masked sorceress?
Sorceress, I'm sorry. Masked
She makes-
sorceress has kidnapped Gil's beloved key and has headed for something. Donning himself in gold armor that radiates light, Gil must now rescue his fiancée from the heart of darkness in the latest challenge.
Okay.
That's the title that I'm not reading.
Gold armor.
It's got a revolutionary at-once turn system, otherwise known as ATS. I'm sure that just exposes the whole thing. A
Relax, Ryan,
turn-based system
relax.
where gameplay and actions are executed rapidly and faster actions are given priority. Since enemy actions and equipment have all been assigned to speeds, there's a greater strategic element to battles. That's a bullet point on the back. Now you can progress through a mysterious dungeon, search for treasure chests, discovering exotic items.
This is
and
literally
find-
just like
I know, I'm
generic
realizing there's
RPG.
nothing
Damn.
about this that separates it from anything. I'm so sorry.
You open
Final-
treasure chests. Holy
Like a-
shit!
Final
There's a whole lot of-
Fantasy.
No.
Namco's
Namco's
terminal,
Final Fantasy.
terminal Imaginarium. Well, sure, there's a whole lot of game in this game.
Play
I'm
a
looking
game.
for some bits that I can read that aren't
It's
going to give it
Velvet
completely away.
Assassin.
No.
Damn it! I knew it.
Gil has a suit of light. He's saving his fiance, who is also a key.
opens
KI type
Kazooie.
of key, KI.
Who opens
Oh, like his energy. They stole his mojo. Is it Austin Powers 2, The Spy Who Shagged Me?
Well, if there was an RPG of that, I would be sure to play it, no doubt. So let's
Dude,
see.
how
Dungeons can
good-
appear. What?
How good would a Telltale Austin
Austin Powers?
be?
That'd
I
be
would
very
buy it
good.
in an instant for sure.
I'm all in.
I've proposed that they make Doctor Who Telltale game. This
No.
Austin Powers might be better.
Yeah.
So here's one of the very unique elements of
It's
it.
unique. Okay.
This I think might be useful in figuring this out. Fox is just about to just fall over dead, I think.
No, I've got a headache
So
that's
sorry.
just getting worse.
Oh.
No, it's okay.
He's
it's
thinking
okay.
about snow cities.
I am. It's freaking.
So while in the dungeon, the player's vision is limited to the light generated by Gil's armor. To maintain Gil's brightness, the player must occasionally give items as offerings to Ishtar. How does that make you feel?
It's like Gil from Breaking Bad or something.
All hail Ishtar.
Actually,
give us
streamer, you have
It's,
to sacrifice your sword to Ishtar to get more luminosity for Gil's armor.
I don't know, man.
Oh, we need Dan Giesling to do that.
Does it have a? This is a hint that I'm okay with because I need it. Does it have a title that is a play on words? It's like Shining Force or something. I know it's not Shining Force. Is the luminous Gil?
No,
Bright eyes. Turn around, bright eyes.
no that's
Blue eyes.
an artist.
Blue eyes, white dragon. I don't know, man. I got nothing.
Uh,
I literally,
Consists
I
of
don't.
two types of gameplay: town sections and dungeon sections.
Oh,
So-
come on. Two types of gameplay.
There's an overworld, and then there's the dungeon crawls.
All right, get this. Town sections are free roaming areas where the player can purchase items, upgrade equipment,
Oh,
and
God.
accept side quests.
This is
As
deep.
well as
literally just
office
an RPG.
Townsfolk. Townsfolk will offer helpful information. and
Has
some
chat gotten it? Can I
visitors-
just like?
It's Diablo.
It's Diablo.
Yeah, it's not Diablo. I haven't looked at chat in a little bit here.
I got
But, all right,
nothing,
so this
man.
was a bit of a failed experiment. I think I'm probably not going to do RPGs then, because this is kind of the way they all end up, unfortunately.
Oh, go into dungeons, look at treasure chests.
Very rarely does the back of the box really give you anything that meaningful. Oh, this is good. GameSpot called it a dungeon hack of the most boring kind, noting poor graphics, plotting gameplay, and forgettable music.
Is it just generic RPG 3? Is it an RPG made in RPG Maker 7?
OneUp.com's Jeremy Parrish praised the game's music and interface, stating that for those who enjoy roguelikes, it's easily one of the best, though fans of typical console RPGs are going to be absolutely miserable. The
So
game
Ryan
sold
will
about
love it.
43,000 copies during its debut week in Japan.
43,000.
Oh, I see what it is. I looked it up.
What is it? What is
It's
it? We failed.
Something Druaga.
It's
Druaga.
the Nightmare of Druaga,
Yeah.
I've never seen that game in my life.
otherwise known as Fushigi no Dungeon.
Never heard of it.
There it is.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Oh, I apologize to everybody on that one. I tried.
This is fine. No, you got us. A point to you, man. You found a
Yeah.
game I've never, ever heard of in my
Nick's
life.
weird games,
So-
you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Got about 20 other ones like this, and I'm just gonna not use them because it's not gonna be fun for anybody.
No,
But
man, use
that-
them, but just don't use them. You know, you got to take like a couple weeks between each one.
Yeah.
Got to
All right.
pat them in there.
No one lives forever 1 week, and then the Nightmare of Druaga, Fushigi no Dungeon the next week. Seems
I see Vera Vinari got it very early on there. I think that might be the first one here. I see some Shadow Hearts. That's not it.
Debonair Gaming has followed me on Twitter, guys. He tweets about tech, news, Kickstarters, and startups.
why you throwing people under the bus?
That's not throwing out, just letting you know. It's information.
For the bus. Yeah, Verum Vinari got it.
Well, you win, Nick. You got a point. Good job. You got us. Nick's Weird Games. We appreciate it. And that is going to be it for Roundtable Live for February 19th, 2016. A little bit of a longer show today, but it was a fun one. Thanks for having us, everybody, and thanks for watching. Again, if you want to support us on Patreon, you can go do so at patreon.com/roundtable. I think Bear said he's going to be overhauling it again soon, but keep an eye out for that. You can also go to the Roundtable subreddit and, again, send us questions at roundtableyt@gmail.com. Also be up on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your other audio listening devices, and up on our channels if, you know, Ryan feels like it, in over the course of the next week. Thank you guys so much for coming by. We'll be back next Friday, same time, same place. We'll see you then.
Later, everybody.
Bye.